OTB AM.
With Gillette. Get into your flow with the new Gillette Labs Razor with exfoliating bar.
Oh yeah. Nodding dogs. Yes, here we are. It's Thursday morning. Thursday morning. Oh my God.
February 2nd.
Wasn't it the longest month of all time?
Oh, it was.
Wasn't it?
Yeah. Didn't touch a drop of drink for the whole month.
Did you not?
No, not a drop for January.
Right.
I really stuck to my guns.
Okay, wow.
Yeah, and I was out for pints a couple of times and had the 0-0s.
It's not much fun, is it?
Brutal. I went home after 2.
The 0-0s kind of makes you just feel bloated and sugary.
Yeah, what's the point? Should have just taken water or something else. But yeah, I made it. Survived. Feel good for it.
Do you?
Well, I was doing more gym and more running and more eating better and sauna and steam room and all the rest.
All of these things are more important than the drink.
Intricately linked. Yeah.
You can manage these two things.
Yeah, I know. You think you could, but makes it easier to be healthy when you cut out something like alcohol.
And has it changed your life forever?
Oh, for the better.
Honestly, like has this interruption of the normal pattern?
I tend to do it every year. Or January, I kind of,
and then you just go mad, like a junior footballer free after the championship.
Yeah, like a cattle led into the field in spring.
I'm sorry, Your Honour. I was on the drive for 12 weeks and we won the championship, and I won't do that again.
Yeah, exactly. Like the Glen and Kilmacud players.
I'll return all the property I stole. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to start that fire.
I know, like I'd recommend it, but I'll enjoy myself this month. But I think it changes your attitude. You don't maybe go as heavy. I had a fairly busy Christmas on nights out. So heavy Christmas. So yeah, January was a necessity.
Right, so you're going buck mental this weekend?
I won't go buck mental. I've the uncles. I've parties and stuff this weekend. So one party. So we'll see. I'll have a couple of drinks.
Has it recalibrated your ambitions for the year from an athletic perspective? Have you decided? You normally do something outrageous.
You see, Mount Elbrus in Russia had been my key for a while,
yeah.
Which now is pretty difficult to get to Russia. We had the flights booked, everything.
All right.
Then COVID happened, and then Russia, Ukraine happened. So
and
that mountain is not going to be climbed for quite some time, I'd imagine.
Right. And so what do you replace that with?
I don't know. I'm going to have a think. Another tall mountain somewhere, probably. The Rockies last summer. I'm glad you brought this up. It gives me the humble brag opportunity once more. It's brilliant. My ego is literally, I'm surprised my head can fit in the studio at the moment, but I'm going to come up with something tall. Like the Matterhorn and Mont Blanc are pretty dangerous.
Yeah.
I'd like to climb a tall one that, the percentage risk on my life isn't that high.
I've a 0% risk apart from one of those Darwin Award stupidity moments.
True. Well, it's never zero. Like people die on Kilimanjaro and people die climbing the Rockies, but you can manage it. Less people. Yeah.
Right. If anybody has any suggestions, lash them into the comments there. 0879 180 180 is the WhatsApp number. The Manchester United fans, they're feeling themselves this morning. Shane is one of them. He'll, metaphorically, obviously. Jadon Sancho is back. Tell me about it, Shane.
Yeah, tell you what. The reception that Jadon Sancho got when he came off the bench last night, bust or not, was something else. Eric Ten Hag, a man who doesn't really let his emotions go too often, smiling, smirking. The whole Stretford end, singing Sancho's name for the remainder of the match and clapped him off the pitch. He was smiling as well. It was a lovely, heartwarming moment. Even Anthony Martial started smiling when he scored, which just you never see. So to see Sancho back in the pitch, I think United fans are buzzing.
Yeah, buzzing for that, buzzing for the cup final.
I can't wait. I'm hoping to head over to Wembley. Never been to Wembley. Never seen United in a final of any cup. So that's one to take off the list. But yeah, United fans are excited and probably have the moral high ground over Newcastle. Nobody wants Newcastle to win, except for Newcastle fans.
I think you'll find that a lot of Manchester United resentment is deep-seated, Shane.
That's
that there's been a long story tradition of Manchester United winning everything.
Yeah. That
just because this little tiny blip that they've had over the last short period of time in human history. Yeah. A lot of people have not forgotten that.
Possibly. Roy Keane was another man who'll be looking for tickets. He outwardly on the TV coverage last night at the end of the pitch side interview with Eric Ten Hag said, "Will you get me 2 tickets?" They're still on air, and he's like, "Yeah, 2 complimentary tickets because I don't want to pay." And Ten Hag, thumbs up, I'll get you 2. And then, of course, he realised he could potentially be working at that final, so You won't need to get 2 tickets.
Was there a frostiness between Keane and official Manchester United? I mean, there wasn't really when Solskjaer was there, so that's not true, is there?
No, I think
I just had this sense that like somehow there was a shield, an Alex Ferguson shield between Keane and the love of the Old Trafford apparatus.
Yeah, I think when
that even Solskjaer couldn't quite overcome. Maybe I'm wrong about that.
I think when Van Gaal and Mourinho were there, Ferguson's impact and influence was still quite strong. Maybe less so when Solskjaer was there, and Keane probably cared less because he was so close to Solskjaer. Not just a former teammate, but someone who actually really likes and gets on with. So I think that probably brought him closer to the club. He's a United fan now.
Somebody he has an intertextual relationship with.
Yeah, exactly.
There aren't that many of those.
No, and you could sense that Roy was buzzing last night. I know he's a former Forest player as well, but I think with United doing well, he's getting a little bit of maybe he's just like, I'm going to get more work because United are doing well.
I think he's okay for the work and the money.
Probably.
And so the rank hypocrisy of the Manchester United fans celebrating a goblet of minor prestige like a place in the final of the League Cup. Answer those charges, Shane.
They weren't celebrating like.
What? You just told me that Roy Keane was happy.
Yeah, Roy Keane was happy. He seemed,
and you're happy. You're buzzing.
He seemed in a good mood, Roy, generally speaking.
So now the League Cup matters.
I think the League Cup always mattered. I actually was looking up last night. Roy Keane never won the League Cup. That's a trophy. You know the way it comes up on there. He never won the League Cup
because they didn't care about it.
Well, maybe there's that argument. He did win 5 FA Cups, but I'm sure it's a trophy he would have liked to have won. You like to take off all these trophies. Bruno Fernandes was speaking after the match and he was like, I've only been in one final since I came to United. We lost in penalties to Villarreal. He's never won a trophy with United.
I do think that trophies matter in different ways. With all trophies aren't the same, right? That's my
they're not all equal.
In that Mourinho was like, I won that trophy. It's amazing. That is now. We have unlocked something. And Van Gaal winning the cup, getting sacked in the elevator on the way down, essentially, that also felt like the end of an era, as opposed to we've built this team, we're continuing to build the team is progressing and getting better. That's kind of a stumble over the line.
Yeah.
Now, maybe the fans don't care, and it doesn't matter to the fans because it's, you talk to Andy Mitten, he's like, being a supporter, winning trophies is really, that's the best part about being a supporter. And so it doesn't actually matter. You enter these competitions, at the end of it, there's like people going up steps and there's celebrations and that whole thing happens. And but I do feel like if Manchester United in this guise win a trophy, it's different from, say, Liverpool winning the same trophy last year. Liverpool are kind of coming off a peak, Manchester United are cresting towards a peak. So I don't know. That's my
some of the greatest moments.
Half-baked theory this morning.
Yeah, but I think as a football fan, or
stick it in the oven, seeing how it goes.
Yeah, see what happens. Hot take. The best moments as a sports fan is when your favourite player or team wins a trophy. Like if you're a Rory McIlroy fan, you want him to win the Masters, you want him to win a major, and those are the best days, regardless of how well he plays in tournaments or the smaller, crappier tournaments that he wins. United winning a League Cup. Like I remember watching the League Cup final in what was it, 2016 when United won, and you're buzzing. The FA Cup in 2017 when they beat Palace, buzzing.
Yeah.
But Liverpool fans have experienced that in recent years. They'd be buzzing to win all these trophies. Yes, of course, some trophies are more important than others, but I think United fans are more buzzing last night because of the vibe around the team. Yeah,
totally. And I do think so at the end of a cycle of winning trophies, you'll be like, it's only a League Cup. But at the start of a cycle of winning trophies, you'll be like, this is our springboard. Now, I mean, it doesn't always work that way. Didn't Juan de Ramos win a League Cup? Yeah, with Spurs, and did they win another game that season? I'm not sure if they did. I think they took their foot off the pedal because they qualified for European football and that was their ambition. Man United have bigger ambitions.
Spurs fans will remember that moment.
Bigger fish to fry. They will, yeah. I mean, it was a bit Spursy, the response to it.
A little bit, yeah, well, to be expected. Sancho as a number 10.
All right, so let's talk about this. I said he's been a bust up to this point.
Yeah.
That's not to suggest he's always going to be a bust, because you've got to look now at what Ten Hag has done with various players, turning them into much better versions of themselves. So if Sancho gets back to a position where he's contributing to the team, then it doesn't really matter, does it?
No, he looked more lively at number 10.
The last 2 years are written off.
Yeah.
Now he's coming on in the last 25 minutes of a second leg of a cup tie that at that stage it wasn't 0-0 at that stage, was it?
0-0, yeah, when he came on, yeah.
But they were 3-0 up on aggregate, so it didn't matter. But Better than a kick in the hole.
Yeah, and his touch probably was a bit off because he hasn't played in quite some time. He's just back in training recently enough. But they moved Bruno out wide, and I just feel like it's less about strength and pace, sheer pace, in the middle, through the middle as a number 10. That's maybe where Sancho was getting found out a little bit, and maybe why he was a bust. Yeah, but in the middle there, in that number 10 position, it's about the short little quick touches, which Sancho's good at. Play to his strengths. He can score as well, he can shoot. Maybe he'll score more in the number 10 role. Bruno Fernandes was brilliant last night. Brilliant. And he has been, I've been critical of him. I think a lot of United fans have been critical of Bruno Fernandes. He was even, a couple of his outside of the boot passes last night, he was asked about it after the match, and he said, I think the presenter, she asked him, how did you learn to do that? And he said, Ricardo Quaresma. He was my professor in Portugal.
Right.
Outside of the boot. He said, try it, and if it comes off one time out of 20,
you're going to look amazing.
Yeah, exactly. So be it.
TikTok hasn't been invented yet, son, but when it is, you're going to be a star.
Yeah. So YouTube footballer. But it was brilliant.
Shifty lad, did you see Cantona's shirts after, Shane? Cool man if ever there was one.
World class. Great player.
Great player.
Wouldn't
Great
say-
character.
wouldn't say-
World class character.
Yeah.
Yeah.
World class footballer. I wouldn't say
Really,
good, man.
really iconic, very important figure in history of football.
Great footballer who won
Not even in your top 10 though.
4 Premier. Well, my top 10 is to come next week.
Next week, Colm is away. Colm is off gallivanting, and so Colm's going to do his. But you can in the meantime, like your shit lyrics, you can send them in to us wherever you want to get in touch with us.
Yeah.
At Off the Ball AM on Twitter. Man United versus Newcastle, says Fergus Keogh. I want them both to lose, maybe penalties, and it never ends. What does happen in a penalty shootout if it never ends? You just keep going.
I wonder what the longest penalty shootout in history was.
Is there like we sorry lads, we reached the point here. I mean, come on. They're the cleaning staff are in and they're like, shuffling underneath their feet.
There was one in the FA Cup a few years ago in very early rounds where it was like 30 something. They both scored 30 something penalties each.
Super Ken 354 says Liverpool had an open top parade for this cup and the FA Cup, FYI. I mean, I think probably Liverpool are entitled to celebrate 2 trophies like that after a season. Is this last year? Is it? It must be.
Last season, yeah.
Like, I mean, they were in the hunt in all 4 competitions. That's a celebration of the season. It's not just for those trophies. And Thomas McGuire says, Ger listing in the Richard Keys celebration, please. It's the opposite. I'm just pointing out that the Man United fans would have been ragging on the Liverpool fans going,
No, I don't think.
and now they're like,
You
should have celebrated that. It was a really good idea.
No. United fans were jealous of Liverpool fans last year when they were winning the League Cup and the FA Cup. I think United fans were happy that they didn't go on and win all 4, and I guess put the treble into everyone's just into the back pocket. Nobody ever would care about the treble whatsoever again if Liverpool won a quadruple. But no, Liverpool won 2 good trophies last year. 2 top trophies.
Right. The big story on the back of all of the sports pages is Katie's Croker fight off due to high rents. That's the back of the Mail. Price fighter. It's a picture there of Katie Taylor. Her in Croke Park is too expensive for Taylor Serrano rematch. McGuigan, GAA should give venue to Hero Katie for free. And so there's another Crokes story. We'll get to that in a few minutes' time if you have the stomach for it. I've lost the one really that has the McGuigan lead. But so Kieran Cunningham has spoken to Barry McGuigan, I think, or certainly it's the Star that had that. Boxing legend Barry McGuigan feels GAA chief should have begged Katie Taylor to fight at Croke Park. Taylor's promoter Eddie Hearn confirmed last night that Croker wasn't a runner for the eagerly awaited rematch between Taylor and Amanda Serrano. Now, Amanda Serrano's fighting this weekend and she has to win for this rematch to happen, so it's not a done deal. You think that Croke Park would give her the place for nothing because she's such a hero?
There's an interesting shout.
I love Barry McGuigan. He's a national hero, an iconic figure in Irish sports history, a glorious dash of technicolor in a very monochromatic 1980s Ireland, and he's an absolute legend. But they're wrong about this, because you're not giving Katie Taylor and Amanda Serrano the use of Croke Park. You're giving Eddie Hearn the use of Croke Park. And Eddie Hearn is a really, really clever fella, right? So he's on Ariel Helwani last night on the MMA Hour, which is ironically named because it's actually 4 hours long. But anyway, he's on and he's saying that they're going to fight. They can't fight in Croker in May. They have to go in May because otherwise there'll be another opportunity missed. And that the tide is bubbling up to a point where the rematch will have been, or the first match will have been so long ago that they need to fight again. And he's like, oh, we won't do that one there. It's going to be the 3 Arena. Still called the 3 Arena?
Arena.
It's going to be in the 3 Arena. It's on the 20th of May, which is the same night as the Heineken Champions Cup final, right?
Yeah, in Dublin.
Yeah. So a lot of policing is obviously required, and they're saying, "Oh, Croke Park is too expensive." It's not too expensive. You're trying to make too much money, Eddie. That's all this is. Like, it's just the price. It's the same price that Garth Brooks paid. Have Westlife played there? I think they have.
They have,
You two
yeah.
have played there. They just pay the price. If you have a hall to rent, the price of the hall is the price of the hall.
No, but you change the price of the hall depending on who else needs it at that particular point in
A bit
time.
of surge pricing like Ryanair.
Well, I mean, May is right in the middle of the GA Championship. Surely the price is more expensive than September.
Well, it's obviously more difficult for them to make that work when, Dublin and Kildare could be playing that weekend.
Could be.
Yeah, let's move that to Newbridge, lads. How about that? What?
Take them out of Croker, yeah.
Come on, put Kelly Taylor in for free and move that to Newbridge. Come on. But this is Eddie Hearn, a genius negotiator with his foghorn going, Croke Park's too expensive. And everybody's like, they should give that to Kelly Taylor for nothing. It's like, no. You give her the money, Eddie Hearn. We wouldn't be able to pay the fighters what they deserve. You pay her. You're like absolutely loaded, absolutely minted.
Eddie Hearn likes to project this image of someone who doesn't know what he's kind of just saying things on a whim. Every word that comes out of Eddie Hearn's mouth is carefully calculated and manipulated as well. So he meant what he said during that MMA hour.
We have obviously given the GAA and their lack of action over the Glenn Crokes thing.
What was that thing? I can't remember what happened there.
A hard time on this show over the week. But they're absolutely right to charge the right price. They're like, this is the rent of the hall, and you can have it for the money because that's how much it costs. Like, that's how it works.
Yeah.
The other thing that hasn't really been reported is that Serrano Taylor 3 will be in Croker in September.
Mm-hmm.
So
that's the
he
word.
can afford it then. Do you know what I mean? He can afford it then.
Yeah, but maybe the prices are different.
Maybe the prices are a tiny bit different, but like as you say, the price for this week is this, and the price for this week is this, and away we go. Like,
yeah.
So painting the GA in a bad light when it's Eddie Hearn doing the talking, you just have to be careful about that. Is all I would say.
I almost feel like now putting Katie Taylor Serrano in the 3 Arena is like putting the World Snooker Championship final into Snooker Hall in Monaghan somewhere.
I mean, like,
is it not a bit wasted? I know it's still 8,000 fans. They pack it out. The atmosphere will be incredible. Eddie has that right, but it won't be a Croke Park atmosphere. Like, and how many people can you fit in Croke Park for a boxing match? Because you fill seats, but then you can also fill the pitch. Is it more than 80,000?
I honestly don't know.
I don't know
what the in the round capacity would be.
Yeah.
I don't know if you can, because like you obviously probably can't.
The Ali fight, I wonder.
I think the Ali fight didn't sell out, and that I think they had 40,000. And also the stands weren't quite what they were. I think we can actually listen. So this is a clip from Ariel Helwani's MMA hour, and it's Eddie Hearn speaking to him. Have a listen.
Speaking of venues, okay, we have to. I need to figure this one out. What the hell is going on with Croke Park? How could they have this gift from the gods?
Yeah, I know.
What is wrong with these? Is it true that they are the reason why the GAA? What is going on over there?
So the cost of hire, the cost of everything involved with the event is 3 times nearly more than staging it at Wembley Stadium. It's unbelievable and it's so frustrating.
Can you argue though that it's worth it?
You can, but like people will just tweet me and go, "Shut up, Hearn, just do it anyway." Yeah. It's like, it doesn't work like that. It's a business. Ultimately, Katie Taylor has financial demands for this fight.
Right.
So does Amanda Serrano. And we want to make sure we deliver them that. But we're so far out on that possibility with the cost of running that show that now, and we're out of time in terms of delivering that date to the broadcaster, we've got to move. So now we'll be in a big arena in Dublin, subject to Serrano winning and subject to tying up a deal, and then hopefully in September we revisit Croke Park. But it's like, it's frustrating. But at the same time, I promised Katie Taylor would be in Ireland for her next fight. It will be the most sensational atmosphere wherever we are, but we'll see what happens on Saturday night. Yeah,
it's funny how Eddie has accurately predicted what some people will say about shut up and pay the money. Like, it's his money. He can afford it. Do you know, in fairness, Eddie Hearn has backed Katie Taylor, has really helped with the amplification of her career to a point where this is happening, and so he deserves a lot of credit for that. But in this instance, it's like, you could easily pay the money. You don't have to make the same amount of profit off every single deal. There is definitely like a bit where you're rewarding her for her living up to everything and every single step second of her bargain, she has lived up to, and more than that, surpassed it. And, you know, if you want to give her the fight in Croke Park and take a small bit less profit, because it's still going to be wildly profitable, like wildly profitable fight.
Either way. Well, Eddie can mention the GEA and he can mention the Irish government, but at the end of the day, the one person who can push this and make this fight happen in Croke Park is Katie Taylor, I think. Because Eddie Hearn is not going to... If Katie Taylor goes to Eddie and says, put it in Croke Park, like, I deserve Croke Park. Like, she deserves an 80,000 seater stadium. She doesn't deserve an 8,000 capacity 3 arena. That's going to be a great night. Don't get me wrong. If it goes ahead,
small venues are iconic. Like, and the 3 Arena has had amazing. But we're going to talk about it, and you had to be there a little bit later on with Eric Donovan. He's talking about a Bernard Dunn fight where he beats Ricardo Cordoba. We were ringside that night doing commentary, and it is unbelievable. It's unbelievable.
Like, she can make it happen. Can she not turn around to Eddie and say, Eddie, you're putting it in Croke Park? I'm sorry, she's the boss. At the end of the day,
it sounds like this is a done deal.
Yeah, it's secured
for the 20th of May. Now maybe it's not. Maybe this is the last bit of the roll of the dice that he's trying to shame the GA into somehow going, oh no, that's fine. Yeah, absolutely. We'll absolutely lower the costs. Here's the other thing, right? It is probably true that the cost of staging it, which isn't all just the hire of Croke Park, it's going to be the cost of policing and everything else around it. It is probably true that this is a difficult country to do business in compared to other parts of the world. The cost of living, all that kind of stuff. It'd be very interesting to hear from other massive, large-scale promoters about how difficult it is.
If you're a multinational corporation, it's quite an easy country to be in.
Yeah. Probably not to put events on, though. I don't know
Maybe
what the specific bit about, like public liability insurance and our propensity to fall over holes that weren't actually there and then go, compo.
Yeah, I was shocked to hear it's 3 times more expensive than Wembley.
But is it 3 times more expensive? He said nearly. It's nearly like 1.5 times more. Do you know what I mean? Like, and once you factor in the exchange rate and all that kind of stuff, like, is it factually exactly 3 times more? You know, what are we talking about here?
Show us the numbers, Eddie.
Exactly. And they'll never show us the numbers, because then you make more than the boxers combined. Like 3 times more. Nearly 3 times more.
Nearly 3 times more, yeah. Could be 1.5 times.
No, but they're taking all the risk, right? They're taking all the risk, apart from the risk of brain damage.
True, yeah.
So look, I don't know. This is one of those scenarios where you're like, I think the price is the price, and if you want to pay the price, pay the price, and if you don't want to pay the price, don't pay the price.
Does it whet the appetite for Croke Park more if they have 3 arenas in May? If they do go ahead in September in Croke Park, if Serrano wins this Saturday night?
What if Serrano wins in 3 Arena? Does everybody show up at Croke Park? Do they sell out Croke Park? Is this a once in a lifetime? Is it now or never?
Either way, that'll be 1-1 then, won't it?
Yeah.
So then, I think either way, regardless of how the second fight goes between them, I think the third fight sells out anyway. Because it's Katie Taylor in Croke Park against the best fighter of her generation that she can come up against, probably. Regardless of what their record is against each other.
She's obviously getting to the end.
Yeah.
As well. That's
now or
the
never.
Thing is that.
Well, she has to do it in 2023. Like, Croke Park has to happen this year. They all said it. So if it doesn't happen now in 2023, that's probably why he's named in September. That's the gap after the All-Ireland finals are finished. Just get it done. Get it done. Now, I haven't said that. I'll be in the 3 Arena in May if it happens. I think, like a lot of Irish sports fans, it's one of those moments you'll want to be there, just in case. You have to see Katie Taylor live in person, especially in Ireland. So, no, I'm looking forward to it regardless of where it is. We'll have to try and get Eddie Hearn on the show and clarify this, and maybe hear from the GA as well. Like, what's the crack here? Like, what are the costs? Obviously there are security issues around Irish boxing ever since the Regency, and clearly costs are up because of that.
I mean, the criminal underworld's involvement with British boxing and showing up to fights is probably at a similar level as it would be to here. You know, I think you'd like to think a lot of those extra costs have receded, but I don't know. Bring Katie to the Carlisle grounds, says Shifty Lad.
That would sell out, I think.
I wonder what the capacity would be again. I mean, I'd love someone who knows exactly what they're talking about to go, well, once you put the arena, the fight in the middle of the pitch, you can get an extra, or you lose.
Yeah.
You know, because obviously, maybe the top of the stand, Croker, you'd be fine. On those old stands that have overhangs, you couldn't.
Well, it's a ring, so you can actually put people.
It's elevated though.
Yeah.
It's not maybe it doesn't have to be that high.
But every seat in the stadium can be taken up because you can put the ring in the middle of the pitch, and then people around it. 80,000 plus.
Edward Freeman says Croke Park charging extortionate prices means Eddie Hearn would pass on the cost of fans and ticket prices, but it's not extortion. It's just the price. Like it wasn't extortionate when Garth Brooks tickets were 50 quid, I think. Right?
Were they? Don't ask me. Everyone thinks I'm a big Garth Brooks fan, and I know I don't know what the price of Garth Brooks tickets were.
I'm sure
you were at him.
I'm sure you bought a load for people. The Garth Brooks tickets, I think, were 50 quid because although he had 5 nights and made loads of money off it, it was you're not going to extortion it, so you don't have to pass it on. Like this bit where, well, if Eddie Hearn makes this fight, he needs to clear 100 million from this, otherwise it's not worth his while, or whatever the fee is. Like maybe it's 20 million. Like it's a lot of money, whatever it is, right? He can just carve a little bit of that and go, okay, this is for you, Katie, this is for you, Amanda, and like again, the bit where it's an iconic moment in boxing history, if they can fill Croker,
yeah,
like he's responsible for that and he has it forever. He's got loads of money. He's got the Jake Paul shit going on. They're all going to make loads of money off each other over the next 5 years, and he's a very young man. He's going to be in this game for another 30 years. Bob Arum is still doing it in his 90s.
True.
Like
it's not exactly a young man's game. It's any man's game or woman's game at this stage.
I'm just not taking at face value the bit where we can't do this because it's too expensive.
Yeah,
says the boxing promoter. I think that there's more to that story than the one side of it that we've heard so far. So I look forward to other information coming to light.
Carlisle grounds would fit 3,200 people, and then of course you've got the dart station in behind there, so easy access for people from all across Dublin down to it. Only 25,000, Ger, were at the Ali Al Blue Lewis fight in Croke Park in 1974. How many? 25,000.
Right, yeah.
Obviously a smaller stand back then, so maybe that had an impact, but yeah, interesting. Katie would be a sellout. 80,000 plus. Could you do 100,000 in Croker?
I don't know. Like, will you sell 100,000 tickets? I think everybody takes as a matter of fact that these tickets will sell. That's a big amount of tickets to sell. Like,
true.
This is a huge amount of tickets to sell, and is it the boxing audience? Is it just an Irish sports fans? Is it just GA fans going to Croker to see Croker be used for
it's any Irish sports fan, and it's a once in a lifetime opportunity.
Sure, but I do wonder if there's a pause in their sense that actually they wouldn't sell these, and that's why they're not paying the money. Do you know, like if they thought they were going to sell 80,000 tickets at between 70 and 120 or 70 and 140 quid a ticket, they're doing it immediately, whatever the cost is, and they're taking their money and they're running. That's like, but if there's a pause in their mind, and they're like, oh, it's not us, it's we've got to get a reduced fee on the basis that we're not sure it's going to sell, like, because you're not sure it's going to sell.
Do you not think they'd sell that fairly?
I don't know. I don't know enough about selling 80,000 tickets for an event. It's a lot of tickets. Like,
this is the biggest night out in Dublin, in decades probably. Like a Katie Taylor fight in Croke Park, that's the biggest night out in Dublin there's been in quite some time. It'll be a social event, not just a sporting event. You have to be there, kind of thing. Do you know? I don't think people will want to miss that. I'd be surprised if everyone in my family weren't looking tickets for that. And there's countless families across the country that will be the same. Do you know? You don't want to be the one person in your family not at this fight. Put it that way. I think 80,000 tickets would be sold. Again, I don't know anything about selling tickets either, but anecdotally, you would imagine 80,000 tickets for a Katie Taylor fight in Croke Park would sell comfortably. One way to find out.
So apparently the guards get between 20 and 47 grand for ticketing, for policing events at the Aviva. And the bills for stuff at Croker range between 14 and 28 grand. So obviously nothing, basically, in the context of selling 80,000 tickets. This is from the Irish Times, I think, and their figures released under the Freedom of Information.
Someone has made the point in the comments, and it makes sense. Katie won't sell out if an Irish team is in the Heineken Champions Cup final, which is a fair point for May 20th. Do you know, if Munster or Leinster or both, or Ulster or Connacht, well, not Connacht, apologies, are in the Champions Cup final, then that's a lot of people that would have been potentially
I don't think Ulster, the crossover of is huge, but
big boxing fans up in Belfast.
The Leinster fans, yeah, the Leinster fans going to see Katie? I don't know. Again, are they the same audience? I'm not sure, but certainly
She's a Leinster woman.
Certainly the you don't want another massive sports event on the same night. First off, so that's one part of it. Which again, I suspect is like part of the. We actually don't want it to be in Croke Park because we're unsure about tickets. There's a massive event on. The cost is like we're not going to make as much profit. We'll do this small event and we'll see if it works and we'll see what the demand is like. We'll make everybody pre-register, and then if that fight goes the way we think it does, then we have the trilogy fight and we get everybody's details and we pre-sell them, and then we've got 40,000 tickets gone before we launch, and away we go. Like there's more to this than if you listen to the piece, it's clear they've had a conversation about it.
Yeah.
It's clear that the GAA has come up. Ariel Helwani is bringing the GAA up unprompted. And away we go. And the stories are, give it to them for free. Give the near billionaire boxing promoter something for nothing. He deserves it. It's like, well, Katie obviously deserves something, right? But she's going to get that from the support of the Irish public.
Yeah.
That's the bit here where you just got to be careful about the motivation of the people involved.
And people suggest in the comments the Aviva, but and other smaller stadiums. But the point is, it's Croke Park because Bloody Sunday, Ireland, England, the national anthem, Ali, the All Ireland finals across the years. It's
Lansdowne Road's pretty good.
Yeah,
Lansdowne Road's an amazing stadium.
It is, of course.
Hang on a second now.
But I mean, from
Roy Keane and Mark Overmars.
Croke Park's our national
What's
stadium.
wrong with the Aviva?
Croke Park's the national stadium.
It's not our national stadium. It's the GAA stadium. We don't have a national stadium.
Yeah, but in our hearts, it's our national stadium.
No.
The history of Croke Park is
very important. Absolutely very important.
Yeah, and that's why Katie Taylor...
They can do that. But if they only think they're going to sell 40,000 tickets, the Aviva's amazing.
It's great, but it's not Croke Park. It's not. Just Croke Park feels different. Because of the history, Ger. The history's in the walls, it's in the grass.
GAA exceptionalism again.
No, not at all.
It is, yeah.
I named the number of events there that weren't GAA related. Ali is being one of them. Ireland, England and the rugby. There's just moments in Croke Park that stand out. There are great moments in Lansdowne Road and the Aviva over the years.
She was a soccer player, played soccer for Ireland.
Yeah.
Do you know? The Lansdowne Road is the natural home for that.
Maybe Dalymount is the national home.
40,000 is perfect. It's a really brilliant, amazing number. Putting the pressure on to sell it. What happens if you put it in Croke Park and you sell 60,000 tickets? It's incredible they sold 60,000 tickets, but it's actually a disappointment. The atmosphere isn't what it would be.
You've still given 20,000 more people the chance to see Katie than would have been in the Aviva.
Yeah, when the atmosphere is just coming out the sides, do you know?
Maybe, but...
As opposed to an absolutely jam-packed, heaving Aviva. I think this rush to big venues is but the atmosphere. So the atmosphere in the Point, if Amanda Serrano wins in the Point, when there's 7,000 Katie Taylor fans, it'll be one of the great all-time achievements in world sport in history.
Yeah.
It would have been like Andy Lee beating Chavez Jr. in Mexico, where, the die was stacked in advance, but when you go into the lines down and you win... Wayne McCullough won in Japan against a Japanese boxer to win a world title fight. That's we underrate the value of that because it happened in the middle of the night and it wasn't watched on terrestrial TV. But you can't do it, do you know? Whereas if she goes in and beats her in front of 40,000 in Croker, where the atmosphere will be a little bit flat no matter what, unless you have the full 80,000.
Yeah, but I think first of all you will have the full 80,000 and the atmosphere in Croke Park will be brilliant. It will be class.
If it's 80,000, yeah, I agree.
Even if it's 60,000 in Croke Park, is that not better than 40,000 in the Aviva?
No.
Maybe not.
Full house, 100%.
Oh, Jesus, the history though, Ger, walking the hallways.
Remember Ireland Luxembourg when there was 6,000 people at it and there were 6,000 mad Luxembourgers, Ireland were under the cosh.
Yeah.
It was only 6,000.
I know, but
like one of the best national stadiums in the world because it's full.
Does the history not matter here? Michael Collins throwing the ball in. The history in Croke Park, Ger. And this is not GAA exceptionalism at all whatsoever.
16th man on the pitch at the end of the All-Ireland final, Shane.
Another historic moment.
We're not forgetting that one too quick.
One of the great moments.
4 minutes past 8 this morning. Here's what's coming up between now and 10 o'clock. Alison Miller is standing by. We're going to talk rugby. The Ireland team has not been officially named, but the papers have the same team, so we suspect that they know what they're talking about. Around the World with Shane Hannon at 25 past 8, back in its rightful slot, getting the love that it deserves. Virtual Insanity with John Duggan at 8:40 this morning. Daniel Harris going to talk to us about the resurgence at Manchester United at 8:55. You had to be there is boxing themed with Eric Donovan this morning. We'll play out some Gavin Cooney goodness from the football show last night. We are going to take a quick break. OTB AM is brought to you live each morning by Gillette Labs for an effortless finish to your day. As I said, rugby with Alison Miller next.
OTB AM. This is OTB Sports Radio.
Have you subscribed to the OTB Football Podcast?
Troy Parrott obviously injured the hamstring in the process
No pace.
of scoring.
He's got no pace, I'm afraid. He's a nice footballer. He hasn't scored many goals, as we know, as well, but he's at that level. I don't know where he'll end up. He's obviously only on loan at Preston. He'll go back to Tottenham, but he certainly will not get anywhere near Tottenham's team, I'm afraid.
Subscribe now to the OTB Football Podcast stream wherever you get your podcasts and download the OTB Sports app.
Off the ball.
So anybody whose question I read out gets a Cadbury hamper, no less. So Teddy, one for
Where's
you.
mine?
It's en route.
Honestly, it's the first Cadbury's appearance I've been to. It's the first Cadbury's appearance I've been to where I've walked in a room and not seen any chocolate. It's embarrassing.
It's great.
You're a little fat little sausage, that's why.
Did you hear what he said then? Call me a fat little sausage. You can't call me a fat little sausage on camera, I mean.
No chocolate for Gaz. That's what they said on the front door.
Off the ball. Weeknights from 7 and weekends from 1.
This is OTB Sports Radio. Live 24/7 on the OTB Sports app.
OTB AM.
With Gillette. Get into your flow with the new Gillette Labs Razor with exfoliating bar.
The Six Nations is upon us this weekend. Warren Gatland, of all people, is standing between Ireland and glory. That's not true. Johnny Sexton says we're not playing Warren Gatland. But we are, certainly at some kind of emotional, visceral level, we are playing Warren Gatland's Wales. Alison Miller is with us to help preview the game. Alison, good morning to you.
How are you? How's things?
Excited about this. Whatever about the World Cup, which we know is looming large on the horizon, this is an opportunity for us to just see how well we're playing, and that's the main thing, right? Just keep playing well, folks, because traditionally, in a World Cup year, this would be around where the time where the train goes off the tracks and the wheels come off. We're like, oh, Jesus, it's going to happen again. So, how are you feeling?
Yeah, it seems like it was only Christmas, and then January's a blur, and the Six Nations is upon us. I think that happens every year. It just comes on us so quick. So, yeah, I think the thing about the Six Nations is it starts early, and then you're into it, and I think momentum and getting a good start is really important. And this game to Wales, it's going to be a tough game because in the Millennium Stadium, going to Wales is a tough place, but I think it's an opportunity for us to play more rugby and gain more confidence and try and keep that form up that we've showed.
One of the things about the form is really interesting is that I think Cian Tracy made this point on or maybe it was Mick making the point that in November, there wasn't a massive sign of progress from the summer. It was kind of maintaining. And that's a good thing because there's still room for growth. Like, we didn't blow Australia out of the water at all. We didn't blow South Africa out of the water, nor would you expect us to. But we're kind of at a level, and it'd be great for us to show progress. Where are the parts of our game that there is room for us to show progress?
Good question. I suppose we remain consistent, and I think if we can just up our performance in what areas, good question. We really have to sit down and watch it, but I think, like with the back three there, that's particularly dangerous. They're starting to gel really well together. You've got Hanson, Ewan Keenan and James Lowe. Particularly, they're very difficult threats, and I think if we can get the ball to them more, and we've obviously seen the ball, we've been becoming more expansive. So I think there's opportunities for that. I think our set piece. I just think in general around the game, I think if we don't it's not looking for massive changes in any particular area, but if we can improve every area at the game, I think those small little 1%ers in a game at rugby at that level, I think it'll make a huge difference. So it's not necessarily any one thing. I think it's just trying to improve every small thing that we do on the pitch in all those areas. Be that our backline attack, be that our forward play, line out scrum, set piece, transition from defence to attack. All those areas, I think just 1%ers, especially the consistency that we've showed. And that if we build on that, I think it will make a massive difference.
There's motivation too, Alison. Like you mentioned Hugo Keenan there, and I was interested to listen to him during the week, and he was talking about the fact that he hasn't won a Six Nations. You think about the World Cup and elements of shadow boxing or whatever for later in the year, but a lot of these players want to win a Six Nations Grand Slam.
Yeah, and I think if you could do that in the Six Nations, it would build huge confidence. obviously those players have that motivation if they want to win it. They've never won it. Some players obviously have, and I think for those players, if they could do that, like regardless of the World Cup, that's obviously the important thing this year. To win a Grand Slam or a Six Nations would be a huge achievement. So yeah, that's something that they'll be looking at. And I think it's the talk whether we experiment or try and win the Six Nations, but I think you could probably do both if we were being smart about it. Like if we look at someone like, the 12 position at the weekend is probably going to be the one that's the most, when we see in team selection who they're gone for, they've gone for McCluskey, Aki or Osborne. And whoever they go with, but potentially if you were to, take a risk on someone, not a risk, but like give someone that's uncapped a game like Osborne, like you're putting him in there essentially with a lot of experience. He's outside Sexton and Ringrose, who are highly experienced, and he also plays with them at Leinster. So like that's a hugely experienced team, but you're also experimenting. But at the same time, with that level of experience, I would still expect the team to win and perform really well, even though one player is uncapped. That'd be my thinking on it. I know people think differently, but I think we're a good enough team that we could do that. If you're to believe some of the reports in the papers today, it would suggest that ahead of the team being in today, Stuart McCluskey is going to win that race to be played at outside centre. Yeah, that's what the talk is at the moment. And look, it would be good to see him getting that opportunity because he obviously played very well in 30 minutes in the first Autumn International, got the arm injury and then kind of did push on. But obviously we saw what a good player he is. He's obviously so physical, we say that, his ability to offload, but also his distribution skills probably doesn't get enough credit for that. So it would be nice to see him starting in again, getting another opportunity. Like if he's playing well and he's performing, which he obviously is in training, it would be good to see that rewarded. And like it's good to see, we talk about form being rewarded. If that's the case, like you want to see that. So yeah, that's all the talk on, I suppose, around the town at the moment. It does, and sorry, in the papers today, both the Times and the Independent have their probable teams, and McCluskey is in both of them. So it'd be a big surprise if he doesn't end up getting selected. The one thing you'd say though is that if you play okay and you do your job, it's sometimes harder to get out of the team than it is to get into the team. You really need to be injured to get out of it. So that would put the pecking order and the depth chart very firmly. Number one is McCluskey for that position until Henshaw comes back. But it's him, and then he's ahead of both Aki and Osborne. And while one of them might get an opportunity off the bench, or one of them might not get an opportunity now until the Italy game, it's like it's going to be a long old Six Nations for you, kicking your heels 3rd/4th on that depth chart. Yeah, like it's interesting, like, if you like that, if you don't start and like, nowadays obviously the bench, and depends what way you split, but like it's hard to get on that bench, and if you don't get an opportunity then, yeah, it is a long Six Nations, and I suppose it's whatever way Farrell decides to go with the Six Nations. Is he going to really keep a settled team, which, a settled team, get a good start, gain momentum, they're playing well, build confidence, build form going into a World Cup? It depends, but also, is he going to maybe try guys that are performing? I think he is a guy, Andy Farrell, that if he thinks that someone's ready and they're being playing well, I think he will play them. To what extent? Like I think someone like Hugo Keenan is obviously nailed on, but I would like to see Jimmy O'Brien start at least one game in the Six Nations to look forward to that World Cup, and that every player can't play every game if we want to be contenders. So it's an interesting point, and I think obviously the 23 jersey this weekend will be an interesting one to me to see who gets that spot. You've obviously got like Larmour and Stockdale in the wings, you've got Aki, and you've got who else am I missing? It's just it's an interesting one to see like who gets that position, because Aki, Osborne, O'Brien, Larmour and Stockdale, what kind of risks is he willing to take, Andy Farrell? Because sometimes you got to take risks to get a high reward. So but he'll know how things are going in training, what he needs for his team, and how to build consistency, which creates confidence, which creates form, which ultimately leads to the World Cup then. The talk, certainly in the Irish Independent, is that he's leaning towards Ross Byrne to cover the out-half position. Like, if you're Andy Farrell, Alison, are you starting Johnny Sexton in all 5 of these games, or do you want to see the likes of Ross Byrne play 1 or 2 of the games? The good old chat of this that goes around.
This has been going on for months, but now we're only a couple of days away.
Talk the other day, and they're kind of I'm in a room with censored lights, guys. This happened together last time. I have to do a quick run.
Bit of exercise in the morning sure doesn't hurt.
Yeah.
Maybe we should be doing that as well.
That'll make anyone in a workplace get moving. So yeah, like I was listening to someone yesterday and they were saying like, oh, I think Johnny needs to keep playing because he needs to keep his form up. And I don't know if I necessarily agree with playing him in every single game. Like he's so experienced, he builds a team around him. But like it's interesting whatever way you approach it. Like obviously start this weekend, play this, like probably like I think he should probably play the majority of the games, but managing them that the other guys are getting time and certainly getting their start against Italy, because you're kind of, I suppose, if you're going down that approach, you're crossing your fingers and your toes and you're just hoping that he gets the World Cup and nothing happens. So that's kind of, you're taking a gamble. But then if the other guys don't get any time and something potentially happened, then you're leaving yourself kind of in a vulnerable position. But that's the kind of conundrum we are in, because it's got to this stage and there's no one as good as him, which is credit to Johnny. Like that's a great thing to say. I think it's his 14th Six Nation campaign and he's 37 or 38, whatever he is. But does he need to play all 5 games? Does he? I don't think so. I think they probably needs to blend it in that he gets enough game time to develop whatever his form and that, but at the same time manage him because he's older, and also think of the greater good of the team and getting those, is it Ross Byrne or Crowley, some game time, because essentially you don't know how capable someone is till they put them in with, like, the guys are going to be playing around them and how they perform in pressurised situations, environments, and no better place in the Six Nations, playing those top quality teams, especially in the Six Nations when you've got like France who are playing really well, and we don't know what Bortix England are going to be like at all. They're an unknown entity. Like at this stage, you probably don't have a style of play, or we don't know what structure they're going to take or anything, because it's so unknown after Eddie Jones.
Do you reckon, as someone who's been around Irish squads and provincial squads as well over the years, Alison, at Bundy Aki, there was internal disciplinary issues before Christmas. He's been linked to a move to Munster as well, so there have been off-pitch distractions for Bundy Aki. Do you think the likes of that are maybe playing into the fact that McCluskey gets the opportunity this weekend, that Andy Farrell sees some players as, I guess there's a lack of game time there as well, and that's a reward for McCluskey. Yeah, I don't know what the issues obviously were in Connacht, and he obviously wasn't selected, but definitely, I think the more straightforward someone's life is and the easier it is, the player is going to perform better. And I think if a player then is performing well and playing, you want to pick them. But I think if there's issues and they're not playing and discipline issues, obviously it's going to, coach, managers are kind of human, and they're going to, I suppose, not even wonder about that, but that player's not putting themselves in the best scenario to play, and you don't I suppose you don't want that player to be carrying around baggage, and I suppose it's only human nature, but it probably doesn't help Bundy Aki's case if that's been, what's the reason. And obviously the main thing is he hasn't played, and you need to be playing at this level week in, week out to build momentum. So that's the first thing. But obviously the second thing is, like, a player like that, well, why isn't he playing for Connacht? And it might maybe no fault of his own. I have no idea what's going on, but the more simple your life is as a player, and anyone would say that if you're going through maybe a harder time in your life for whatever reason, playing is a little bit harder because you've got more distractions and all that. So distractions don't help elite level sport in any sense, and any sports person will tell you that. So there's obviously some distraction there for whatever reason, and there's issues. So that could be potentially a reason,
Two quick things on that. They put him straight in the team against Australia after his 8-game ban ran out, and he rewarded them with an early try. And they also picked Jack Crowley in that game against Australia, which maybe we've kind of forgotten about, because Ross Byrne comes off the bench and kicks the winner. I definitely would love to see an experimentation over the course of this, and it's clearly not going to happen because the team looks like Sexton's going to be starting. But I'd love to see Sexton on the bench for a big game, not the Italy game. You know, like
yeah, I would too. And there's so many people that would disagree with us, but I think we're at the stage. Obviously, Johnny is so far ahead of the other 10s, but at the same time, we have such a good team and so many leaders around the field that I think we're in a good position as an Irish team to be good enough to be able to do that. That's what I think, and I think that should be your mentality. Like, I think that should be your mentality as a team, and I presume that it would be the mentality of the guys that we are good enough that, you know, and put these guys in positions that they will be able to perform. And you'll maybe doubt a player. You might think, oh, they might not have it. And you put them into pressurised positions and they absolutely thrive on it. And they get, you know, a full 80 and they thrive. So I would agree with you. I'd like to see that. Loads of other people would have such a different opinion on it. But that would be my opinion.
I don't think
looking forward to a World Cup.
Yeah, I don't think you're actually risking defeat by picking Jack Crowley or by picking Ross Byrne to start the game and having Sexton there for the last half an hour or 25 minutes. And it's not a reflection on Sexton's form or a suggestion that you're not our number one guy. You're still we know that, but like forward planning and just how easy it is for teams to target the 10. Like, yeah, off every scrum, the blindside flanker, his job is to crush the out half as soon as he gets the ball. Off every ruck, crush the out half. Like, we know Sexton's going to get absolutely targeted because they keep telling us. France have been targeting him in every Six Nations. They have got him late. Every single one, he gets tackled late. And sometimes he survives it and sometimes he doesn't. But, like, you know, maybe we could, like, have him come off the bench.
I think we have a luxury that we have, like a world-class, stellar-class player like Johnny. Like, he's so good. And, like, that is amazing. But also in reality, he's at an age now where your body doesn't recover as quick. It's a attritional game. It's highly attritional. I know they obviously play 2 games, get a break, play a game, get another break, and then the last 2. But at the same time, I suppose any S&C will tell you're looking after those older guys a little bit more smart and stuff. So it's about being smart that we're looking after them. We're getting them in the best possible shape to World Cup while still playing him. And being realistic, obviously the other guys are not quite there yet, but at the same time, yeah, I'd like to see them play and give them an opportunity and give them enough time that when they get to a World Cup, we're not in the same position we were in 2019.
Yeah.
Coming in cold, essentially, like.
Yeah, and I mean, you know, we should learn the lessons from history. I just want to put my hand up and say, if history matters. It's important sometimes that we.
Yeah.
It's probably some things we could maybe do differently this time.
Yeah.
Are you surprised, Alison, at the Welsh selection in any way? I was kind of looking at it, going, is this the 2012 Six Nations or is this the 2023? Like,
apart from the kid they picked in the centre, and they're like, if that was Ireland, that guy's never getting to play.
That's true.
Yeah, Gatland, I suppose, is gone for players that have, what's the word, delivered for him before, and that he knows what they can do. So it's interesting to see, like, depends on how those Welsh players, you know, the older guys and the more experienced guys, we could call them, for Wales, how they deliver and how they play for Gatland, and how the younger players, they all merge together and what they can do. And, you know, he does get results from his players, but it's the merging of that experience that he's picked and those younger guys, can they come together and get a performance? You know, he's an interesting character, Gatland. I think, you know, he's obviously gone out there saying, like, we're taking a free shot. But I was actually interested in reading what Johnny said, and he made a good point. If they were taking a free shot, he probably would have gone for more younger players. So I'd say he's going out there to get the win. But I still think the quality that we have, I think, regardless of the selection and the older heads that he's picked, I think we're good enough to perform and win. Even though it's going to be a tough game away, I still think we're good enough to do it. But yeah, it's interesting to see his selections and to see what he's done. And, you know, he's dropped some people and left some people out and stuff like that. So yeah, it's interesting to see, will those players play, you know, get up for Gatland, because they obviously probably have huge respect for him and they're used to working with him. They know what he's about. He knows what they're about, and there's a lot of loyalty and trust there.
Alison, good stuff. Enjoy the game. Thanks a million for joining us.
Oh, thanks, guys.
It's Alison Miller, giving us her thoughts on the game. I'm scarred, obviously, by what happened to the San Francisco 49ers at the weekend, where 6 plays into the game, their third choice out half slash, like the most important. They always compared Sexton to Tom Brady, or they were like inspiring him by talk of how well Tom Brady was doing, and then Tom couldn't have just waited until next season to retire. He had to do it before the World Cup. I mean, come on, Tom.
Yeah,
you're Irish. You can take one for the team. At least pretend you're going until after the World Cup.
Yeah. So Brock Purdy is the Ross Byrne here. Is this? So you're worried about the ranks getting?
Well, and after that, they get to Josh Johnson, who
is,
with all due
Crowley?
respect, is like, was picked off the practice squad. So.
Yeah.
So Harry Byrne is going to be our out half in the World Cup quarter final at this stage.
But you have to be ready for that. That like injuries are part of the game.
You do, and so they never practice with the backup QB in. They get very very minimal reps in practice, because the gap between the first and second is always supposed to be so massive, and then it turns out the 49ers managed to somehow flukily look into somebody who was really good as their third choice this year, and but once you go past that, the depth chart gets so thin that the game is up. It's over. There's nothing you can do.
Yeah. So Purdy was Purdy that was Mr. Irrelevant?
Yeah.
So then the guys below him are.
Well, there was nobody below him. They had to go and get somebody from another practice squad at that stage. So you just think that like injuries are going to happen, but you need to give game time, meaningful game time. Now, maybe they think that one game that Crowley had against Australia and Ross Byrne coming off the bench that day was enough.
Yeah.
It feels like you probably need 4 or 5 games.
But I feel like in rugby, as opposed to American football, they are training with those other halves.
They are, and they definitely are. And there's days of the week, I'm sure, which are rest days for Sexton. That
and they actually get to play as well. Ross Byrne and the likes at provincial level in different games.
Ross Byrne gets to play, yeah, and Crowley is getting to play in the centre because Joey Carberry's playing ahead of him. But for Ireland, against England or against France, like I would definitely pick not my strongest team for this France game, but have all the lads on the bench and go, this could well be our starting team against France in a big game in the World Cup. Like, it's 50-50 if we'll be playing France.
Yeah. So don't play your best team.
Have them on the bench. Like, have them ready to come on in the second half, and if we need to make a mount of furious comeback, we mount a furious comeback and we see how we go. But give Crowley or Ross Byrne and a few others the opportunity to see how they match up, what it's like for the anthems, what it's like for that roar of the crowd. Obviously, it's not quite the same because it's a home game.
I don't think any of that matters to professional sports people. Like
Matty Williams was talking about the Millennium last night and how now things weren't going very well for Scotland at the time, but he had 5 debutants playing in the Millennium and the roar of the crowd, and he looked around and he's like, oh Jesus, we're in trouble here. I'm paraphrasing Matty, so don't but I like.
But they're used to playing in front of crowds. A slightly louder crowd is not going to be.
I think it's not the crowd, but the crowd is amped up because the game and the occasion matter more. So the occasion matters more. This is a tournament. This isn't even a Champions Cup match. That's a bit of a dead rubber because you're already qualified.
But if Ross Byrne could kick a winning kick at the last minute to win a November international against one of the big teams in the Southern Hemisphere, then he can kick a winning kick in a World Cup semi-final. I think
they're not the same.
No, they're not the same. But I think if you can do one, you can do the other.
It's a good sign.
Yeah,
it's definitely indicative. It'd be great to give him the opportunity in a big Six Nations game. Now, there's a good chance he's coming off the bench. If he's on the bench, there's a good chance he's coming off the bench at some point.
Yeah,
against Wales. Although Sexton does play a lot of minutes.
For a 37-year-old, yeah. I was about to slag Alan Wynne-Jones for being 37 and still going.
Fair play to him.
But I mean, Sexton's the same. So, and Lee Halfpenny 34 on the as a fullback. I mean, I don't know how these lads do it. Whatever
they go off the drink for January, Shane.
Well,
obviously we've established
exactly. Yeah.
It's a life-changing moment.
It's in the valleys. It's just in the blood in Wales, isn't it?
And Ireland, it turns out. But it is a Dad's Army Welsh selection. We should kill them. Like, come on.
It does feel like a throwback with Warren G and all these lads.
Somebody was in our YouTube comments pointing out Owen Sheehan's Twitter and Instagram activity overnight. He was tagged by somebody asking for the most annoying You talk amongst yourself there, and I'll try and find it.
He reposted the video with the kids, was it, in Wales? When Owen went over and was chatting to some Welsh kids in advance for Six Nations game. Was it last year, the year before? And the kids didn't take... I find that very offensive, I think one of the kids said. He wasn't happy whatsoever. Owen was taken to task.
What is the most infuriating and unlistenable Irish rugby podcast where you're guaranteed to get total goons talking undiluted, flat-out shit non-stop? Please tag in any good ones. I need something to sharpen my hashtag Ireland Week focus away from the WRU omni-shambles. Glad we could be of service. Edward Jenkins on Twitter.
Jenkins, I wonder where he's from.
And somebody said... the little ginger version from Off the Ball, although he may have moved on.
That sounded very
that was Mike
sinister.
At Mike Liam Smith.
Yeah.
Hello, Mike Liam.
He might have moved on. He's still alive, Owen, anyway.
And he follows Owen. Yeah.
See, they hate follow him. They hate follow him. They want to see what he's at, just to keep in touch with him, do you know? Poor Owen. I'd say he puts up with a lot from the Welsh. The little ginger lad. It's harsh.
It's 8:30 this morning. If you want to get in touch with us, we'd love to hear from you. 0879 180 180. Particularly hello to our Welsh fans. Hate watching us this morning. Thanks for those clicks.
The valleys are shite.
We love them. It is time for something entirely different. We have Around the World with Shane Hannon.
Welcome to Around the World. The segment that for the last 2 weeks has been on a Friday with unnamed ginger host who, with all due respect, didn't give the respect that Around the World deserves. He dissed it, he acted disinterested, he laid back, he yawned, he gave out about my selections, he said they were crap. All in all, he just took the luster and the lure away from my segment, which I put a lot of work into every week, has to be said. At least 10 minutes of preparation goes into this slot. And I had a very interesting story last week about, Cameroon fielding overage players and bone density scans. And as soon as I mentioned bone density scans, Adrian fell asleep. He started slagging it. And then I got a load of comments from people, at least one comment on the YouTube saying, Shane, love this segment. It's fantastic. Keep it going. And a few tweets from people who are clearly scientists who are very interested in the bone density scans. So if you do enjoy this segment, leave a comment. Tell us you enjoy it. And if you hated it, just don't comment. Leave me alone. But Around the World this week, Ger, we're going to start. I find a lot of these stories tend to be from the United States of America, maybe because so much batshit crazy stuff happens in the US of A. But we're going to Virginia, first of all, in the United States on the eastern seaboard. Virginia's basketball coach in Virginia, has been fired for impersonating a 13-year-old. So this is kind of the opposite of the Cameroon story from last week. So a 22-year-old Virginia basketball coach fired after being accused of attempting to pass herself off as one of her 13-year-old players during a game. So this was a station in Norfolk. One of the members of the Churchland junior varsity girls basketball team in Portsmouth, not that Portsmouth, was out of turn earlier this month. Arlisha Boykins stepped in and impersonated the absent player in a game against Nansemond River. So one of the parents came in. Boykins was an assistant coach on the team, no longer an employee of Portsmouth Public Schools. They were first tipped off about this story by one of the players' parents. So this is fantastic. Now, footage from the game. We've got a video. Now, this is, remember, 13-year-old girls playing a basketball game, and there's a 22-year-old. Spot the 22-year-old. This is a clip
Here's
from
video
Wavy
from
TV.
that game. Churchland is in the black uniforms. Number one right there that just came up with the black block shot. We're told that is Arlisha Boykins. They were taking on Nansemond River. This video has been edited to show you some of the highlights. Arlisha is apparently a 22-year-old young woman going up against 14 and 15-year-old girls. Now, we have confirmed that Boykins is no longer an employee of Portsmouth Public Schools. And since this game, the student athletes on the team and parents decided to just end the season. They will not be playing any more games this year. Portsmouth Public Schools did launch an investigation into this matter. The details have not been revealed by officials quite yet.
I feel like she's not even trying to hide it. She's just clearly the best player on that pitch. Maybe she can pass as a 14, 15-year-old. Just don't do it. If you're 22, I mean, have some moral compass. But the father of the 13-year-old who had been impersonated commented. He said, "Coaches always preach to the kids about integrity and those types of things, so I was just shocked. I just need an apology because I haven't yet received one from the overseer of the programme." Sort it out.
And the programme's dead.
Programme's dead. They've all decided to stop. So that was the first story from Virginia, United States of America. The next story, I don't even know how to pronounce this place. So thank you for the music as well. Go to Reims in France. R-E-I-M-S. Is that how you pronounce it?
Medellin.
Medellin. It could be Rice. It could be Reese. Right, Reims, I think is what Cameron told me. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, hawk up a spit there just to pronounce this one. The League One outfit Reims. We're going to go.
Where's Cameron when you need him?
I know. Yeah,
he's got one talent in life.
Maybe he can pop in before the end of this piece and let us know how to pronounce it. But they're in Ligue 1 and they've been fined a whopping £22,000 sterling every single game at the moment. That's because of their manager. He's an English Belgian called Will Still. Still has British parents. Was born in Belgium. He's overseen a remarkable run with the French club since being appointed as their head coach in October. He's only 30. He's the youngest manager in European top-flight football, appointed until the end of the season. He was the assistant manager before then. There he is. But this is the story. Again, maybe a bit of an Owen Sheehan lookalike, this guy. He got into football management by playing video games. Football Manager. Now, if your parents ever tell you
what football game did he play, Shane?
Stop playing video. So there's a quote from him on screen. I'd never considered that Football Manager had an influence on my real life career, but thinking about it now, it definitely did. I got fixated on it as a kid, and playing the game probably ignited the fire in me that I have now as a coach on the touchline. They've lost just once in their last 17 games. So apparently, because they're doing so well, they're happy to keep paying the £22,000 fine per game. Why are they fined every game, you might ask? He doesn't have a UEFA Pro licence. He's not allowed to be the coach. But he leads them into
like a lot of money.
It does seem like a lot of money
for the French league, for them to be able to, because it's like extra 20 grand a week
per game. Yeah,
he just do the license and maybe get the money himself.
I know, you'd imagine so. He was saying that you reflect on it and think, why the hell am I doing this? How am I in the position to be coaching against these guys? Because last week they got a last minute equaliser against Paris Saint-Germain. He's coaching against Messi and Mbappe, and his background is in Football Manager. So it's quite an interesting story. Like, I'd love to get him on the show. Will Still at some point. Moved from Belgium to Preston age 17 to focus on his career path. Folarin Balogun as well, who Arsenal fans will be familiar with, is the guy banging in all the goals for this Reims team. They've jumped up to 11th in the Ligue 1 table. They've lost just 4 games this season. So yeah, the out-of-time equaliser against PSG kind of brought it into the story room again from last weekend. So kids, if you're told not to play video games, don't listen to your parents. Do what you want, because you never know where it might end up. I think that's the moral of this story. We'll head next in our stories on around the world to the Netherlands, to Feyenoord, and the greatest example of shithousery I have ever seen. The Feyenoord goalkeeper Justin Bijlow left FC Twente fuming after some quick thinking avoided a potential goal threat. So this game, Feyenoord, at the moment this happened, were leading 1-0. The game ended 1-1, but this moment was in the first half. Have a look at what the goalkeeper does to waste a little bit of time. I think we've a clip of it as well here.
What's happening?
So essentially, the keeper's come out and tackled the ball out of play. Clearly then the FC Twente player is going to take a quick throw in. They're probably going to score a goal, but he spots another ball on the sideline, throws it onto the pitch because he knows they can't play with 2 balls on the pitch, delays the game, gets a yellow card for his troubles, but I mean, stops a probable / potential goal from happening. FC Twente do equalise in the second half, but
he had a ball thrown at him for his trouble. I do like, if he could have just got hit by the ball, your man would have got sent off. It would have been prevented goal, get them sent down and you've done, like, that would have been amazing.
Yeah, 100%.
A grand slam.
But it's just one of those moments. It's quick thinking. So goalkeepers, they're standing in the goal for the entire game. Maybe they're not given the credit they deserve. But that's one of the greatest examples of shithousery I've ever seen. Maybe we'll see Gavin Bazunu do this once Matt Doherty comes back.
It's almost like having a 16th man on the field.
It is. It's kind of like Chemical Crooks. But I feel like with Matt Doherty going to Atletico Madrid now and Diego Simeone, maybe he can have a whisper in the ear of Gavin Bazunu and Caoimhín Kelleher, and Irish goalkeepers can adopt some of this shithousery into their World Cup qualifiers. Who knows? The final place we're headed, lads, on Around the World this morning is New York City, USA, and a controversial story from downtown Manhattan. The Empire State Building lighting up in the colours of the Philadelphia Eagles. Fly, Eagles, fly. We're going green and white in honour of the Eagles' NFC Championship victory. This hasn't gone down well, lads. This hasn't gone down well. Sunday night, the skyscraper attracting the ire of a sizable proportion of New Yorkers, lighting up in the colours of the Philadelphia Eagles, who had reached the Super Bowl by beating your own beloved 49ers, of course, during the NFC Championship game. Eagles, of course, being the massive rivals of the New York Giants. Now, look at this for a reaction. How lame. How lame is the Empire State Building? Lighting up a New York building in the colours of an NFC East rival. What an absolute piece of shit building. I'd be embarrassed to have it in my city. They should knock it down. We've got some more reaction here. Another photograph coming up. I don't even have a mouth, was the Empire State Building's response to Snickers, saying the Empire State must have been hungry Sunday night. Have a Snickers. A lot of companies, of course, jumping on board and having their little moments.
Hashtag corporate bans.
Exactly.
Who doesn't love that, eh?
There was a video reaction as well from the Empire State Building who pushed this video up to react to all the comments. I mean, the Empire State is very, very harsh on social media. They really don't care. It has happened before. 2018, when the Empire State Building lit up in green and white after the Eagles won the Super Bowl. New York politicians have come out saying, as the representative for the Empire State Building and a diehard Giants fan, let me be on the record saying this is absolutely ridiculous. So there are a number of reasons why this has caused controversy. The Giants Twitter account also acknowledging it. I'm just here for the comments. But an inanimate object, Ger, causing so much consternation.
The obvious answer is don't be crap at football, New York Giants, and don't get your ass handed to you on a regular basis. Now, in fairness, they've made significant improvements, so we'll see what they're like next year.
Exactly.
Is that it?
Yeah, that's our stories this week.
All right, that is this week's episode of Around the World with Shane Hannon. Let the people decide. Let the people decide. What do you think, folks? Get in our comments. Get on our Twitter at @OffTheBallAM and tell us.
Be honest.
Where else are you going to hear this stuff?
It's true, yeah. You might have missed these stories during the week.
Pearls before swine, I say.
Yeah.
It's 8:41. It's actually now time for Virtual Insanity.
You have entered Power Drive.
All right, JD.
We are in the neon of cabaret themes and weird music this morning. You had
Neon's underrated.
I love neon. I'd love to see a bit of Japan, Blade Runner. You were talking about the eagles there and the flying and stuff. I just got a thought of Al Pacino in the bath and Scarface. And he goes, Manny, look at the pelican fly. Come on, pelican. That's my left field observation this morning. So, I don't know if you remember it. Really good moment.
Oh, you've brought me back. Fantastic.
Brian De Palma. So, Virtual Insanity, you're right. We got a podcast now this year, and we haven't drawn any money yet. So we're obviously hoping that'll change, but it's a long-term game. I don't have any fears that we'll get some winners. So the Pebble Beach program starts today at 4:30 in California, used by 3 courses used. So Spyglass Hill, Monterey, and also Pebble Beach used for 2 rounds. It's a pro-am, so you've all the celebrities like your man from Fresh Prince of Bel-Air is in there. What's his
Will
name?
Smith?
No, the guy with the jumper.
Yeah, he plays Carlton. Alfonso Ribeiro is the actor's name.
Yeah, Bill Murray.
He's having a moment again, is he? Because he definitely disappeared off the cultural radar for
like
like
a celebrity, wasn't
25 years, was he?
Yeah, he did a few years ago.
The English one?
The English one, yeah. Maybe
is there an American one? I don't know.
So. Yeah, so Kenny G, the guy who plays on the saxophone, he's multi-billionaire, and all these people so they're all playing for 3 rounds. You need a bit of patience to be playing with all these lads, and it's not really great TV, but by the Sunday it's a bit better at Pebble Beach. So Seamus Power should have won this last year, didn't, but he is in the field, plays with Thomas Detree later. So I picked 5 golfers. I'm only going to give 2 of them now. The rest are on the podcast network for bonus content. So they're on the podcast if you want to listen to the whole thing. But the 2 I'm going to give, the 2 main ones, Keith Mitchell is the headline one for 28 to 1 for 450 each way. He is double the price of Maverick McNeely, who I thought of putting up, but I think Maverick McNeely is too short at 16 to 1. So Keith Mitchell's had his best season on the tour last year. He was tied for 12th in this event last year. Should have been placed, to be honest. I think I had him last year, and he comes into this tournament fresh. He played well in his last event, the American Express. He's strong off the tee, and I think that's what you need, is kind of fiddly tracks around here. They're like tricky tracks. I think he needs to be strong off the tee and accurate. Keith Mitchell is that. If the putts can drop at 28 to 1, I think he's worth 450 each way. And the other one is Grayson Sigg for 350 each way at 80 to 1. Another one of those golfers with a brilliant name. So he once again faltered in the final round last year with a 75, but he was definitely in contention to place. Plays well on coastal courses, has already been in the top 15 in Bermuda and in Georgia and Sea Island this year. Grayson Sigg, so not under pressure in terms of his tour card, and has won a couple of times on the feeder tour. So I think Grayson Sigg is a good each way bet at 80 to 1, and Keith Mitchell's the headline tip this week at 28 to 1. But we've got 3 others, and they're all on the podcast network Virtual Insanity, which starts at 4:30 today.
Maverick McNeely is short as 16 to 1.
Yeah, too short for me.
What's going on?
Somebody's never won. The field isn't that deep, but he's a kind of a sexy pick. I think that's way too short.
You've been on the McNeely bandwagon for a long time.
Yeah, but I'd rather be on at 33s or 50s. I think this is a silly price. He played well last week, but not that well. Like there's players I put in the podcast that played better than him last week and are about bigger prices, 4 or 5 times a bigger price.
I'm seeing Seamus Power at 20-1 as well. That's a very short price for Seamus Power. He's obviously like one of the big beasts this week.
He is, yeah, with Matt Fitzpatrick and Victor Hovland, but there's not that many beasts. So yeah,
this is where we're starting to see the thin fields because of Liv.
Yeah, you would have had players like I don't know who would have played from Liv in this, but like I think Dustin Johnson won this a couple of times. So that's one example.
I presume Patrick Reed is playing. I presume Mickelson plays this, does he?
Mickelson, yeah, has won this before and loves it. And yeah, he was always a big fixture at the 18 Pebble Beach Pro-Am. So yeah, you're seeing a little bit of that now seeping into the whole thing. And obviously, you know, our appetite's been whetted by Reed and McIlroy last Monday. So, but I do think this does provide opportunities for the unsung heroes, the up and comers, the players that might be a little bit under the radar. So, from a punting point of view, I do think it provides value because, you know, Victor Hovland might not be on this week. Matt Fitzpatrick might not be on, especially if they're going and playing Pro-Am for 3 days. Therefore, you might get value out of this tournament.
Pro-Am, the Pro-Am talk got me thinking there, John. Who's the one current golfer and maybe one celebrity you'd most like to do a round of golf with?
This is the Gareth Bale thing, isn't it? I'd probably like to. I mean, I don't play golf, you see, so I'm not. Maybe it's a bit of a redundant question. I wouldn't mind playing a round with Obama.
Oh,
like he knows how to play, likes playing golf, whatever. But
that's I didn't expect that. Yeah, good shout.
Yeah, it's hard to.
Would you call him Mr. President the whole way around?
Probably.
Decorum.
Get a lift on the old plane. I'm sure they've got some kind of. I'm sure they still have some kind of. I know it's not Air Force One, but some kind of plane.
I'd say
when they retire.
Yeah, I doubt he's lining up for Ryanair.
You get on a motorcade anyway. That's one of my dreams in life, is to be one of those motorcades.
The Beast.
Just on any motorcade, you know, the whole kind of thing where, you know, you got the motorcycle escort and you're one of those limos with blacked out windows and you're just speeding through and, like, you know, you're just splashing water at everybody.
What has happened in your life to get you to that point?
Obviously, my life's gone very wrong.
It's a bad thing. Okay, right. I was wondering, like, what good thing has happened to get you there?
Motorcades. Who gets motorcades? Just politicians really get.
If you're media in those things, sometimes you get.
I wouldn't pedal because it's my birthday.
I'd forgotten about that.
Yeah.
What was it again?
The pedalo.
Yeah. Amsterdam.
I wouldn't pedal because it's my birthday. I was thinking. I was thinking of a. Yeah. I was going to think of a story.
How would you wave? Yeah. Sorry, you had a story this week. Go on.
Do you ever get comfortable? You know, when you've had maybe 2 or 3 drinks and you get comfortable and you don't want to move. You ever have that feeling?
Oh yeah.
So Kerry played Dublin last July in the All Ireland series, and it was beautiful. It was a beautiful Syrian hot day, beautiful sun, a fantastic day. 3:30 throw in, was in the Upper Cusack, got my tickets during the week, whatever. And got to 2 o'clock and we're just getting comfortable in a Dublin pub around Grafton Street. I was thinking, this is really, really good. But, you know, there's a kind of a cut-off window. But if you don't leave by that stage...
You're going to be a typical Dublin GA fan, arrive late.
Yeah, or not even arrive at all. To be honest, you end up watching on TV in the bar and, like, pretend you were there. But I couldn't do that to myself and the person I was with. So we went up to the rank on Stephen's Green at 2 o'clock and we're waiting for half an hour. I said, this is getting like treacherous now. And the idea with the 2 to 3 pints and you're walking for an hour in that heat to possibly get there at 20 to 4 is not really, that wasn't that appetizing. What we did was we just hopped on one of those carriages with the pony and we got a lift through the whole of town on the pony and trap and just saying to everybody, we're not getting married. So you're getting a pony and trap. Normally it's only kind of done a loop around whatever Grafton Street. So so you're ended up in this pony and trap with the guy. You know, he's guiding it through O'Connell Street, straight the whole way through, and then up to Summerhill, and then there's quite a big hill up at Summerhill, and we're starting to feel really guilty about the poor old horse because the horse, the more we were going uphill, the faster the horse was going. So we ended up with just getting off the horse. It cost 80 quid.
I was going to say 600 euros later.
Yeah. So
you're a good horseman as well. So to be fair, yeah,
we got in there by about 3 minutes to spare. But it's
the most Dublin thing I've ever heard.
And also, it's just the stupidity of having a couple of drinks on you and actually partying with 80 quid because you think it's a bit of crack.
Sure, look, a fool and his money, as
that's
they all say.
Easily parted.
Come here, it's Six Nations Saturday for you. What's coming up on Off the Ball on Saturday?
Gordon Darcy live from Cardiff. with Ashton O'Reilly. So and we got Neil back as well. Bit of an interview with Neil back on England, Scotland in the Calcutta Cup. Obviously, we'll be on the air when the game is on. So look, we'll have regular updates from Gordon Darcy. It built up as well at 1:30. So this is the big one. Haven't won there in 10 years, and I feel really excited about it, guys. I'm sure you do as well.
JD, enjoy. Thanks a million.
Cheers.
That's John Duggan giving his virtual insanity this week. And as he said, you can subscribe to the podcast on our podcast network for more of those golf tips. It is 8:50. OTB AM is brought to you live each morning by Gillette Labs for an effortless finish to your day. We have Daniel Harris in just a moment. We'll get to that.
I'd play around with Matthew McConaughey.
Oh, sorry. I realise when you ask a question like that, you have 4 answers for me ready to go.
Actually, was just thinking about it there. Take a shot and he's like, all right.
Obviously, Dave recently played with Evan Ferguson before he was Evan Ferguson.
I played golf with him.
Yeah.
Jesus, yeah. Evan did tell me when I was interviewing him recently that he loves a bit of golf. But all professional footballers love a bit of golf.
He's turning into our Gareth Bale. It's going to be amazing.
Yeah.
He's going to play for Real Madrid and score the winner in the Champions League final. Why can't we dream?
Ireland golf Brighton. Is that the flag that we should do up for Evan Ferguson?
Ireland golf Barcelona. Go to Barca.
Yeah.
Why not?
Yeah, why not? He's...
they've had good forwards.
Yeah. Do you know what? I got a text from one of my mates the other day who said off the ball is going to single-handedly ruin Evan Ferguson's career. And you know what? I think
from one of your mates?
Yeah, I think
screw him.
The implication was that we're putting too much pressure on him. Evan Ferguson can deal with the pressure.
It's not pressure, it's love.
Yeah, exactly. We're expecting so much of him because he's
it's
so
excitement,
brilliant.
it's joy.
Yeah, just keep doing what you're doing, Evan. There's no pressure there. You're good enough, so just keep doing it. He's one of the most exciting prospects to come out of Ireland in a long time, probably since Robbie Keane,
Rory McIlroy.
Yeah, sorry, in a football sense I meant, but yeah, he's you're putting him on a pedestal, Rory McIlroy. Why not? The sky is the limit for him.
Davy Clifford,
yeah.
Similar levels of expectation.
There's also, speaking of green things that are going to go sky high, have you heard about the comet tonight? Sorry, this is just a public service announcement for people, right? An incredibly rare green comet is going to be visible tonight from Earth for the first time in 50,000 years.
Oh, wow.
The last time it flew past our planet, Neanderthals were roaming. Distance of about 26.4 million miles, but you'll be able to tell the difference between the comet and the surrounding stars. It'll have a streaking trail of dust behind it.
What time?
So any time tonight is the closest pass, I think, to Earth. So there are obviously these balls of dust and ice, but as they get closer to the sun, they begin to melt. So they have this stream behind them. So that for yourself is what it'll kind of look like. But it's worth stream behind them.
Sorry, I thought you were talking about your love life there.
Yeah, not quite. But tens of thousands of years ago, there was mammoths and big ice age animals the last time this passed. It's just a POA. 50,000 years. We weren't around the last time this happened, so get out and
we might not be the next time either.
Exactly. I don't think.
Although who knows? AI's going to ruin everything, or else save us forever.
Yeah.
On that note, it's 8:52.
Space Watch.
Time to talk about Manchester United. Daniel Harris, good morning to you.
Hello.
Shane's a Man United fan. He said buzzing after last night. Is that the general consensus? It's time to think Man United are back, baby.
I mean, they're not back until they actually do something, I don't suppose. But what I would say now is the thing that is most striking about United now that feels the most different is you go to games, you watch games, knowing that they're going to win. And that's not really been the case at any point since Fergie, where United draw Nottingham Forest in the League Cup final. And beforehand, there is not a chance United are going to lose this tie over 2 legs. It's not possible for Forest to beat United over 2 legs. And what we've seen, particularly over the last few weeks, is since the World Cup, is that they're starting to win all these games, and they're also starting to win them a little bit more comfortably now. Whereas at the beginning, when they were winning quite a lot of games narrowly. Now the attacking football and the confidence of the attacking football is semi-back, and they're starting to knock aside teams who they were struggling to beat before that.
We were having the philosophical discussion earlier on about all trophies are not the same, that when you're at the start of a cycle, winning a trophy is more important and feels better than when you're at the end of a cycle. That's not actually true for fans. I think for an outsider watching a club, this trophy for Manchester United will be more important than, say, anything that they won under Van Gaal or Mourinho as an outsider. But as a fan, all trophies are equal, right? You get the day out, you get to go to the match, you get to celebrate in the moment.
Yeah, I think so, and I would like United won when United won the Europa League under Mourinho. That was a massive trophy because that completed the set. That was every trophy that the club could win had been won, and there are very few clubs that can say that. And if you couldn't say it then, you can't say it at all because the Cup Winners' Cup doesn't exist anymore. So that Euro, and it also came the couple of days after the Manchester bombing. So that particular trophy won under Mourinho was an enormous trophy win, that one. And then also, it's not just about the club story, it also can be about personal stories as to why particular trophies matter to you. So for me personally, I have quite a close relationship with the cup that they won under Van Gaal for various reasons, and just some various things that were going on in my life at that time that made that a very significant one. So there'll always be reasons. And also, that FA Cup win, if United don't beat Palace in that cup final, then Alan Pardew doing that dance becomes enshrined in football folklore forevermore. So United number one, just football folklore didn't need that. So United saved the whole world from that. But also, United saved themselves from the humiliation of being the patsy that was the victim of that. In the same way now, actually, United don't want to go to Wembley and be the patsies since Newcastle's last trophy since, was it 68, 69? United don't want to be the team that gets beat by Newcastle when Newcastle win that trophy. So there'll always be reasons as to why trophies are particularly special, but it would definitely mean something if they were to win this first trophy in whatever it is, 6 years.
We were gifted a Jesse Lingard winner in that FA Cup final in what was it, 2017 as well. I mean,
and that's the thing, when people were slagging off Lingard, in my mind, there was always, he saved United from losing an FA Cup final to Palace with an unbelievable goal when they were down to 10 men. And even if he never did another thing in the United shirt, that for me is enough.
Do you know what, Daniel? I mentioned it earlier, and look, smiles don't win games, but there are smiles on the Old Trafford faces around the stadium and amongst the players and management as well. Ten Hag all of a sudden is smiling. Martial, who doesn't smile ever, was smiling after his goal. And Jadon Sancho got one of the warmest receptions I've seen at Old Trafford for some time. Certainly through the television, it seemed that way. Anyway, how good is it to see him back? And I guess the other part of that question is the number 10 role. How well do you think he'll fit in there?
I actually said to a friend this week that I thought that Sancho could play that role. That I would be wondered if we'd use him there because the wings are taken up. He quite likes to play off the left, and there's Rashford. Rashford is immovable in that position at the moment, and there's Garnacho behind him. And then on the right, there's Anthony, who is more of a kind of winger I think that Ten Hag wants on that side. And so I wondered if he could play there, and I also sort of wondered if he could replace Eriksen, because I was thinking, I guess, about the way that Arsenal play. That the way that they use Martin Odegaard and the way that they use Granit Xhaka, basically players who are constantly making third-man runs, running beyond the strikers. And I wondered if Sancho could play as an attacking midfield player rather than as a number 10. But as a number 10, the reason it works is really clear, I think, that he lacks the power and pace to go on the outside. At the moment, anyway, I wondered if he could get a bit fitter, and he doesn't look as thick in the body as he did previously before he had this break. So I think he's lost a bit of weight, which should give him a bit more speed perhaps, and he probably needs a little bit more power, but he doesn't have the gas that Rashford and Garnacho do, and he's never going to. And in order to beat people on the outside, you either need phenomenal gas or you need a lot of power. So he doesn't have that, and if a winger doesn't have that, then they're not as good as one who can go both ways. And one of the things we've seen in Rashford's development this season is the ability to go on the outside is one of the things that has made him a much better player now. Whereas inside, the space is much more restricted, so it's not so creating space is not so much about speed, it's more about feet and intelligence. And Sancho's ability to take the ball under pressure, to do magical things with very soft feet and to move away from players in tight spaces. He's amazing at that, and he's also a really good finisher. And so those two things make me think that he could do a pretty good job there, because he can also play on the half turn. The problem for him is that that's where Bruno Fernandes plays, but what it gives United is it gives United options whether they want to rest Bruno, because I know people were talking about saying Christian Eriksen against Reading and him getting injured. For me, when you overplay players, it's not so much the fact that someone like Andy Carroll might lumber into them and hurt them on purpose. It's more that you want the players to be fresh come the massive games at the end of the season, and you want them to be fresh through the season. And the way that you achieve that is by rotation. So United haven't had an alternative to Bruno really in the 3 years that they've had him. If they do have one, then that number one means that they've got flexibility for before games, but as Ten Hag said last night, they've got flexibility within games as well, whether it's a swap, you go there and I'll go here, or whether it's replacements like last night happened. Sancho came on, Bruno went to the right, made a brilliant goal. And so he can do lots of things, Sancho, and once he starts playing with more confidence, it'll probably be possible for him to play anywhere across the front, because it's more about how you feel once you know that the ability is there, and the ability is there.
Is this the one kind of caveat to how well the season has gone so far from Manchester United's perspective, is that we're just uncertain about not just Sancho, but the relative strength and depth across the rest of the squad? Or do you feel relatively confident, given how well the coaching has worked so far, that actually the squad is deep enough to manage the challenge of competing on all the fronts they're competing on at the moment?
There are a few players in that team that can't really be replaced. And that is the case. If you have brilliant players, sort of a facility of being a brilliant player is that you're missed when you're not there, and it doesn't matter who you bring in. So I would say the player that they are least able to replace is probably Casemiro. And I don't think they would have lost that game to Arsenal if Casemiro had been available for that one. And they don't much want to lose Martinez or Varane either, because there's a big step down there. But otherwise, they have quite good replacements in every position. If Shaw doesn't play, they've got Malacia. The right backs are neither of them are that good, but there's not that much between them. Bruno obviously is the leader of the team. He's the captain of the team. He's the best player in the team. But they do have other ways of scoring goals besides Bruno, which they didn't really have under Ole. So any team will miss good players. If you took Thomas Partey out of Arsenal for a long time, that would be a problem for them. If you took Martin Odegaard out of Arsenal for a long time, that would be a problem for them. And it's not necessarily because the squad strength isn't right. It's just because these players are brilliant players, and there aren't players who are like them. And it's not possible to have a player as good as them, because they'd just be sitting at the side. So
yeah, I suppose that the one caveat would have been, up until recently, we would have said Manchester City could largely have any of their best players playing. Even without De Bruyne for a period last season, they were still able to reel off a load of games, and he came back into the team and the team improved. And you say, oh, he's slightly better than what they had as a replacement, but the replacement was excellent. Now with Cancelo gone, and just a few questions there, I'm not convinced that everybody is in the same form they were in at Manchester City. But I guess that's the level you have to aspire to, and they're the champions for 4 out of the last 5 seasons because they have that squad. Notwithstanding what you've just said, is there any concern that they don't have enough depth just yet in the evolution to finish
for sure. Yeah. But they don't have, even if Casemiro is not available, they don't have a sensible alternative to him. Obviously, there's not going to be someone as good, but there isn't really anyone else in the squad that can play that position. So there's no depth there. There's no proper centre forward, so there's no depth at centre forward either, because I guess there are players, Weghorst and Martial, who would be good options at centre forward if you had someone above them, but you don't, so they're lacking a little bit there. But otherwise, the squad's in reasonable shape. The thing about United still at this point is they still need, really, you might 4 players for the first 11. They probably, Ten Hag probably wants a new goalkeeper, because in the end, De Gea, he's not good enough with his feet, and he doesn't push the team up the pitch. So if you remember the Arsenal game, one of the reasons the pressure got so on top at the end there is because United dropped deep. And part of that is on the centre-backs, whose job it is to keep the line further forward, but that's also partly the goalkeeper, who should constantly be pushing them up, except he doesn't really want to sweep in the space behind them. So he probably wants a goalkeeper, he probably wants a right back, he definitely wants a centre forward, and he also wants a midfield player, because in the end, Christian Eriksen's a beautiful footballer with lovely feet, great imagination, but physically, he is not good enough for a team that wants to be ball dominant against another team that has players who are as good, because their players will also be able to run harder and faster for longer. So that's 4 players United really want for the first team. And if you look at the teams United want to compete with, Arteta now is signing players for the squad, because he basically has a player that he wants, that he likes in every 11, in every position. he probably is going to upgrade Granit Xhaka in the summer or soon, but he likes all the players that he has and he's happy with them, and so he's now buying for the squad, whereas United still need to buy for the first team. And City, similarly, they basically have a first 11 and lots of options, and that's what United need to compete with, and they don't have that yet. They're still trying to buy first 11 players in the summer. So once they buy the first 11 players, actually, the strength in depth isn't bad. The strength in depth is not ideal now because the first 11 isn't where it needs to be, I think.
Once a team is winning, Daniel, I guess the trust is there in the manager, and the trust was there on transfer deadline day when Christian Eriksen, his injury is announced that he's out till late April, early May, and then the quick deal is made for Marcel Sabitzer, and he was in the crowd there last night at Old Trafford watching on. What do you think he brings to the team, and is he a good acquisition, a good replacement for Eriksen?
I mean, the ponytail obviously rankles slightly, but yeah, I think
ponytail aside,
relative to what the situation that United found themselves in, where they're like, Jesus, we need to replace a key man immediately because we don't have options, to go and get a player of Zabitzer's quality just like that. That feels like more or less the best they could have done, because he's an excellent player, and he doesn't have Eriksen's soft feet or imagination or the ability to see the best pass fastest, I don't think, but he actually might make the team better overall in some games because he has the physicality. He doesn't have the assists of Eriksen, but he has the goals. He's faster. He's also extremely versatile, so he can play across. He can play any midfield position. He can play behind the striker. He can play off the wings, and just having those options in the squad in a place where you lost an option should be really useful. I mean, you never know how a transfer is going to go really until you see it. I mean, there are a few, Wayne Rooney, Rio Ferdinand, where you're saying this literally cannot go wrong. So it might turn out to be rubbish. We don't know how fit he is and how long it will take him to get up to match speed, because he hasn't played that many 90 minutes this season. But in terms of the situation they found themselves in and what they were able to do, that was a pretty good effort, and I think he's a good player. And what I've seen of him, he's someone that I think could add to the squad. He's probably not good enough to be a first 11 player for where United want to get to, but I'm sure he's good enough to be a rotation player. I mean, he's a better player than Scott McTominay, say, and he's probably a better player than Fred as well.
I know you'll have seen Bruno Fernandes's post-match interview. Picking up another Man of the Match award. He's making a bit of a habit of that recently, as Bruno Fernandes, where he talking about that outside of the boot pass and cross that he tried a couple of times last night. Giving Ricardo Quaresma certainly much of the credit, his professor as he put it.
I love that.
I mean, it's brilliant, wasn't it? And Bruno is kind of a man. He's taken a lot of flack from United fans and critics, but he's coming good.
I mean, anyone that was giving that guy flack should probably have a very serious think about how they watch a game of football. In that he's not perfect, but he carried the team for 3 years more or less, and he was one of the last to go when it all really went dreadful under Rangnick, where he'd been flogged to death for what was 2.5 years by then. It played game after game after game after game. I think him and Harry Maguire, had been the busiest players in world football or something. And people spoke about him like he was an idiot, that he was someone who just tried a Hollywood ball or a Hollywood shot every time. Whereas it was very clear that was just his job in the team, because the team didn't function that well because they couldn't pass through midfield. So they weren't able to dominate the ball. So when he got the ball, he didn't get the ball that often. So he had to try and force something to happen. And it was obvious, I think, to anyone who is sensible that if you suddenly put him in a better team with a good midfield player next to him, Casemiro and Eriksen, that he was going to get loads more of the ball, and that there was no reason to suppose that he lacked the football brain to not try and do something ludicrous every time he got it, because he's got speed, he's got tenacity, he was the leader of the team already. Why? I didn't understand why people didn't think he'd be capable of giving a 5-yard pass when a 5-yard pass was necessary, which is what he's doing now. Why would he not be capable of running up and down and playing sensibly? It was just the way that he was playing was a product of the way that the team that he was in played. It was a team that played in transition, really, that liked to play on the counter. So his role was to try and spring something.
Yeah.
And now that's not the case. So, I mean, people that were giving him stick, I can't understand that. He's the best player of the post-Fergie era by miles and miles and miles. His numbers are astonishingly good. and he's a brilliant footballer who and he's also reliable.
All right.
We've seen a lot of good footballers in the post-Fergie era who have been Angel Di Maria, Paul Pogba, brilliant players who have been unreliable. But Bruno was reliable, still is reliable, and it's no surprise to me that he's even better playing in a really good team.
We got to leave it there, Daniel. Good stuff. Thanks a million.
Ciao, have a good day, everyone.
So Daniel Harris giving us a pie-in to Bruno at the end there. 9:09 this morning here on OTB AM. We're brought to you live each morning by Gillette Labs for an effortless finish to your day. Here's what's on OTB Sports Radio today. OTB Gold at 1 o'clock is Jack McCaffrey. Leaders' questions at 3 with Stuart Lancaster. Our retro panel is Telling It Like It Is at 4. I've no idea who's on that panel. I suspect John Hartson's on it. Nigel Mansell is there from 6 talking, I think, with Joe. I think that's from lockdown, but I'm not sure. Anyway, you can follow Off the Ball across all our social channels and subscribe to the OTB Podcast Network for all the best in the latest sports content. After the break, Eric Donovan's You Had to Be There.
OTB AM on OTB Sports Radio, Ireland's first and only sports radio station.
OTB Sports Rugby.
Yeah, we just can't afford to lose 4 individuals. I'd say Johnny Gibson Park, probably Andrew Porter, and I would say probably Doris.
Did you see the quotes from Owen Farrell yesterday? Finding his son in the house wearing an Irish rugby jersey for granddad.
This is interesting. We've got to give Andy Farrell a job for life just in case his second son turns out to be just as good as Owen at rugby. Because if he is, we'll have an out half for 15 years.
Subscribe to the rugby stream on the OTB Sports app now.
You weren't asking for, like, I don't know, an exceptional, like, otherworldly amount of things. It was basic things like
loss of earnings, relationship with employers, more training. Lack of more training was more and better training, and how we would facilitate that was the big thing.
I mean, to be quite honest, for me, the players like Karen and the younger players who had more years in their career were far braver than like me, for example, who I knew I was on my way out the door. Like, I'd planned to stay another year and then finish, even though I was threatened to retire for years. So it was easier for me. Like, that's when I was like, this is my time. If I don't do this now, I'm never going to do it. And I have to make it easier for the people coming behind me, because it's not an easy position to be in. And I don't really care what happens to me if I get chucked off the team, which I completely I'll never forget myself and Anya having a conversation before we went in to Liberty Hall, and we just said to each other, listen, this is it for us. We're like, this is it for us. We're never going to play for Ireland again, or if we do, it will be like we're going to get pushed out the door. And she said to me, well, I'm going to take that. Do you want to take that? I was like, I'll take it as well. So we're going in here knowing exactly what's going to happen.
OTB AM.
With Gillette. Get into your flow with the new Gillette Labs Razor with exfoliating bar.
Yeah, you heard there Emma Byrne and Karen Duggan speaking with Alana Canan at talking about the 2017 strike against the FA on this week's episode of the Koi Gig Pod, which is obviously in association with Cadbury FC, official snack partner to the Republic of Ireland women's national team.
It was so unexpected.
It's one of those you had to be there moments.
You had to be there.
It subsequently genuinely did change everything about my life.
You had to be there.
Eric Donovan, good morning to you. How are you?
Good morning. How are you keeping, Ger?
Yeah, good. How's the hand?
Jane, it's coming on. Don't have to punch anymore, so I'm all right.
No rush with it. Come here, before we get into your had to be there, do you think you had to be there in Croke Park, or would you be happy enough to be there in the 3 Arena for Amanda Serrano and the beating she's going to take from Katie Taylor?
Yeah, it's a great question, to be honest. I think everybody has this kind of romantic kind of connection to Croke Park and everything that it means and the history of it. And I do think it would be really special in there. I do hear your point, though. What if Croke Park is, 3/4 full? Would it have the same kind of atmosphere? I never thought about it like that. I only kind of viewed it as being a full house. When I have visions of Katie Taylor boxing in Croke Park, I see a lot of people disappointed, for not getting tickets, and I've always said that I think Eddie Hearn underestimates the love for Katie Taylor in this country. And, so I would like to see maybe the bigger stadium, and obviously like to see it full as well. It really would be a disappointment if it wasn't.
It'd be a generational moment, wouldn't it? Like Katie Taylor and Croke Park specifically.
Yeah, you see, that's what I think that Katie Taylor has, which is kind of different to other world champion boxers, is that she has a reach that goes right across to the families of across this country. Just families, you know, parents, kids, you know, where other world champions might just have the boxing fans or the hardcore sports fans. But Katie she just connects to everybody. And I think it would be one of those family events, a once in a lifetime, yeah, as you said, a generational thing. So I definitely would see her selling out Croke Park, and I would be really shocked and surprised if she didn't.
Okay, well, in that case then, like Eddie Hearn predicted people's response. It was like, just do it, Eddie, you know, maybe he doesn't have to take his usual cut, maybe he can give the money to the fighters.
Yeah, you're dealing with one of the toughest kind of professional boxing promoters out there. I know he's very, very good, but you know, he's a businessman at the end of the day, and no, I was quite surprised as well when I heard him speaking about the costs involved. Now, I didn't look into it a whole lot much, but it was just kind of like, oh, that was alarm bells for me, you know. It was like, oh God, is this ever going to happen, you know? Because me personally, I thought Katie Taylor has really reached the pinnacle. She's done everything, she's proved everything, and I really don't even see the point in a rematch with Serrano. Like, for what? I think she could fill a stadium with boxing anybody, you know. Well, not saying anybody, but even somebody like respectable, like a mandatory challenger to her belts. Like, she beat Serrano convincingly, and she managed to overcome that obstacle. But Serrano is dangerous. She's very dangerous, you know. And what I mean by that is she's capable. We've seen it in those, I think it was the 4th, 5th and 6th round of that fight. We saw where she really shook Katie Taylor to the core of her, you know what I mean? And so that shows that she is capable of doing, you know, of causing a knockout, you know, and that would be an absolute disaster, you know. And that's just, I don't see why they need to go there again.
They obviously feel the money is enough to pay for the level of risk. There's a lot to play out here, and we'll obviously get an opportunity to talk about it again. And if it happens in the 3 Arena, then that will also be an incredible night. I think the 3 Arena has made your list of you had to be there. Let's get into them. Your first one is the preliminaries in the World Junior Championships. It's Amir Khan versus Yordanis Ugas of Cuba. So this is Amir Khan basically as a kid, I suspect, in 2004.
Yeah, I was at these World Junior Championships, and I was actually Irish senior champion at the time. So I won the senior title at 18, but I was still eligible for the World Juniors, and I was really expecting big things of myself because I had won the 4 Nations seniors as well as a 17-year-old. So I was vastly experienced at this age, you know, and I went out there and expecting really great things for myself, and obviously it didn't go to plan at all. But I heard a lot of rumor about this kid from England, Amir Khan, but I haven't seen him yet. I just heard a lot about him, and so when we were there, we were on a beautiful place, a volcanic kind of island off the South Korea. It's Jeju is the name of it, and I remember the opening preliminary rounds. We were, you know, we'd hang around with the English lads from time to time. You know, we'd be speaking to them and chatting away to them. We'd be fairly close to them and friendly with them. And Amir was there, and I thought he was quite cocky and a bit arrogant, you know, because the Yordanis Ugas, the Cuban absolute legend, was in the ring, and he had come into this World Juniors as a world schoolboy champion, and he was probably, I don't think he'd many losses to his name at all, and he was absolutely exceptional. And when we were watching him, Amir was standing with us, and Amir knew he was boxing him next. And we were all kind of looking at Amir thinking, what does he think of this guy? Because your man was exceptional. But Amir turned to all of us and said, I'm going to stop him. I'm going to stop him. And I was just like, hear this lad, you know. And anyway, the next day, they were due to face each other. He didn't stop him. by God, did he give him some going over. He beat him, I think, 21-9 or something like that. And he was on the verge of stopping him. Didn't stop him, but beat him so well, convincingly. And then that was the first time I ever seen Amir Khan in the flesh, and I was really, really taken aback. I was just like, I was in awe of him. And then later on, after that, he went on to win the gold. And word was that the English team weren't going to pick him for the Olympic qualifiers because he was too young. I think he was only 70. And he threatened to go and represent Pakistan, his ancestral home. And then they changed their mind and they picked him. And, well, you know what happened next. He went on and he qualified and won the Olympic silver medal at 17 years of age. And I just remember that. I'll never forget that first time looking at him in the flesh, seeing him in the ring. Just extraordinary.
Is that like, so Kevin Caban talks about seeing Robbie Keane in training, and he obviously saw Wayne Rooney in training as well. Is it something similar where you're like, ooh, this is genuine world-class talent I'm seeing here? Because you must have felt like you were world-class yourself at that stage.
I did. I came up against, I was in the bantamweight division that time myself. I came up against a Cuban that was about 6 foot something in the bantamweight. It was absolutely incredible. Kind of unlucky with the draw. But yeah, like when you think about this guy that Amir like absolutely schooled, Yordanis Ugas, he's the last man to beat Manny Pacquiao. Pacquiao retired after this fight. He went on to win the World Senior Championships in 2005 in China. He went on to win the Olympic bronze medal in Beijing. And he's a 2 times a professional world champion now. You know, he had a close fight with Errol Spence recently, but Errol Spence beat him. But like, he is, you know, legend of the game, you know, top talent, Pan-American, Central American, gold medalist multiple times, World Cup champion. Beat them all, but Amir just went through him, you know. And I seen Amir then go on to because I went to the Olympic qualifiers too. We were in the same qualifying tournaments, and I just watched Amir just dazzle his way through it. Like his talent was just extraordinary. His speed, his hand speed, his footwork. He was just, you know, I give him my name for this. He was just lightning.
And like you guys, Eric, like his reputation probably preceded him. Is it the case when you're lining up against a Cuban boxer and you see that Cuban flag beside their name, is it kind of akin to maybe a sprinter seeing the Jamaican flag beside a competitor? Like, there's something about the Cuban boxers that I'm sure causes a fighter to pause and think twice.
Yeah, without a doubt. You know, when you see the Cubans coming into an arena or anything, everybody stops and looks at them, takes notice, you know. And what you will notice is that they're very, very, very together, very, you know, connected, and they don't pay much attention to anybody else. And it's almost like they know everybody is watching them, everybody's looking at them, all the heads are turning, but they don't look like they're interested in anybody else, just themselves, and they just carry on, you know, about their business. And you know, you'll hear, you know, people often talk about this before, like, you know, boxing the flag, you know, instead of boxing the man, you know. And the Russians and the Cubans and Ukrainians and that would have had really, really, really highly impressive reputations, you know. And you would have been, if you came up against one of them or got one of them in the draw, you would have been, your first initial thought would have been, damn, now I've got to try and muster up the courage and the know-how to try and get through this test, like, you know. But that would be the first initial thought as soon as you get drawn against one of them. You know, and especially if it's your first fight in a tournament, you would feel a bit hard done by. Yeah.
Your next one is Paddy Barnes, and this is a gold medal fight. It's in Moscow, funnily enough. You're talking about that. So was he up against a Russian?
Yeah, so Paddy Barnes, he's up against Elvin Mamashadze from Azerbaijan. Now, incredible, absolutely incredible young fighter, major medal winner himself. Beat a very good Russian. It's not so much even the opponent, even though the opponent was brilliant. It was more about the display and the gold medal winning performance, because we came onto the Irish high performance team in 2003. Gary Keegan was the kind of one of the brainchilds behind the whole program, and he was the first director of it. Billy Walsh being the head coach, Zor Antia, and we were all just kind of starting out in this new professional kind of setting. You know, we were all boxers, but we never classed ourselves as professional athletes. And remember Gary Keegan saying that to us, that you are now professional athletes, you know, and we were trying to achieve something, you know, something really special. And they believed that, you know, world class, what did world class look like? They often spoke about that, you know, well, world class looked like medals, you know, major medals, world, European and Olympic. And in 2002, the year before the high performance team was established, an Irish team went to the European Championships in, I think it was Perm in Russia. And I think 9 boxers went out and 9 boxers were eliminated in their first fight, you know, and it was more about at those times it was go out and enjoy yourselves, lads, you know, and have the crack and enjoy it, you know. But the high performance was a whole new kind of new approach where we wanted to get involved in the big fights, in the big events. But I remember watching, I was at the European Championships in 2004, where we won nothing. Andy Lee got a bronze medal and he qualified for Athens, but he was the only one to get something and to qualify. Then 2006, the European Championships, we scraped another bronze. Kenneth Egan got that. 2008, don't think there was anything. Then 2010, and during these European Championships, I'm watching the Ukrainians, the Russians, and the Azerbaijanis, and the Turks. I'm watching all these guys dominate, and I never truly believe at that moment that, you know what, we're actually going to be a powerhouse, or we're actually going to be on the top. Like, I just never thought that would be somewhere we'd get to, you know. And then in 2010, we win 5 medals. Finished second to Russia in the European Championships. That's just an incredible, you know, rise. But it was Paddy Barnes' fight where I watched him winning that gold medal, and I was just in the crowd and I was just thinking, wow, how only in a short, 7 years from the establishment of the high performance team, here we have, you know, an Irish boxer finishing top on gold, the Ron Aveen playing, and I was just like, wow, you know, it really made me believe that with hard work, belief, a supportive professional system in place, and everybody, you know, in a kind of a coherent, cohesion kind of togetherness, you can achieve big things. And that opened the door to John Nevin, Michael Conlon, Jason Quigley, all within the subsequent years winning European gold medals.
It's really incredible when you think about, when you lay it out as starkly as that, to go from nothing to all those gold medals. It's not an accident. And Gary Keegan, who now obviously is on the sideline for the Irish rugby team this weekend, his influence in Irish sport, when that comes to be considered, because he's actually brushed off against loads of other people along the way. I know loads of people kind of go to him and have gone over the years. How did you do that? What was it that transformed this mess into this machine as it was? And so next one on our list is Katie Taylor. Now, you've gone for an exhibition fight, but this is kind of a seminal moment in the history of the sport as well.
Yeah, it's a seismic real moment. It really is, because of when you put the context, you know, when we talk about the context around it, Katie Taylor was invited to box on the final days of the World's Men's Boxing Championships in 2007 in Chicago. I'll always remember Chicago for 2 things. I boxed to qualify for the Beijing Olympics and I lost. You know, it was devastating, and it's always kind of a sour taste in my mouth because I genuinely believed I was going to do it, and I got beat by somebody I'd beat before. And anyway, that's the sour part. But the other part was, I just felt it was a crowning moment for women's boxing. And that's when Katie Taylor got in to fight on the finals night at a kind of an interval moment. There was kind of a bit of an interval break at the halfway point. If my mind serves me right, if my memory serves me right, and she got into box a Canadian fighter,
Katie Dunn.
Katie Dunn, yes, who was a Pan American gold medalist, Central American gold medalist, who's very vastly experienced as well, Ger. And when Katie Taylor got in, the whole place was just in awe, you know. And she won. She stopped her opponent, and she got a standing ovation in this arena. We were sitting beside the English team as well, and bear in mind that this English team was full of a lot of superstars as well. James DeGale, world champion; Tony Jeffries, Olympic medalist; Billy Joe Saunders, world champion; Frankie Gavin, England's only ever world amateur champion. And they were all just turning to us, wow, are you serious? Do you box her? Do you spar her? They couldn't believe it. They really couldn't believe it. And if that was an opportunity to demonstrate that women belonged in the Olympic Games, then Katie Taylor just knocked it out of the park, and I'll never ever forget that performance.
It's almost surprising that was 2007, and there's Olympic Committee chiefs at the fight, and they decide not to have women's boxing in Beijing. Now they finally caught themselves on and bring it in as a sport in London 2012. But considering how impressive Katie was on that night, it seems surprising to me that women's boxing wasn't in the Olympics 4 years previous.
Yeah, probably I would agree with that. But I think at the same time, even though Katie was exceptional there, and she really did plant a seed in all of those officials and delegates, and to really seriously consider having women's boxing in the game. But don't forget, there was a few special women around at the time, but in terms of strength and depth, they probably didn't have it across all the weights, and that's why they introduced the only 3 weights into the London Olympic Games at the first attempt, and then I think it's moved to 5, and now they're nearly on an equal level with the men's. But it was still a massive challenge, a massive task. I believe that when she was in the dressing room as well before she went out, that she was told that go and perform, that the Olympic officials are watching, and this is, can you imagine the pressure of that?
I was going to say, it's like, whatever you do, don't screw up. It's like, don't be nervous. What? Oh, now I am.
Yeah, and you're already fighting on the world men's final, where you kind of feel like, men have dominated the sport of boxing for years, and here you are boxing in front of your peers, like, who you would have been, who you would have been looking up to, like, for a long time, and you're getting into display or showcase your skills on this stage. Like, it was a very daunting stage, I thought, and but she, as I said, she just smashed it.
Well, back full circle a little bit. Our next one is Bernard Dunn versus Ricardo Cordoba. It's the Point Theatre as it was then in 2009. It's the day that Ireland win the Grand Slam. Liverpool beat Man United, or certainly Man United get beaten, because Bernard Dunn famously says, "Oh, what a day! Won the Grand Slam, Manx get beat, and now we're world champion." This is an incredible fight. The atmosphere is ridiculous.
Yeah, it's just unbelievable. It's there's no, honestly, I know it's a lot of boxing, but there's no greater atmosphere, I just find, than a world title fight that has all of the drama, the knockdowns, the storyline, the narrative. It just keeps changing, and then everybody, the energy is just through the roof. And I think they showed the rugby on the big screen as well earlier in the day. I'm not sure if my memory serves me correct there, but I definitely think there was some connection. We knew about the rugby anyway as well, or the rugby was earlier that day, yeah. So there was just everybody was buzzing, And then if you think of the story of Bernard Dunn getting knocked out by Kiko Martinez, I wasn't at that event, but some of my family members were, and I remember one of them saying when they were leaving, there was a guy coming up out of the bathroom, and a few of his mates, he says to his mates, "Where are you going?" They said, "We're going, it's over," So and he was after missing it. So, like, that kind of, to be absolutely just like European champion, then it just taken away from you in the most dramatic fashion, like, being knocked out, like really bad knockout too, like, and then to turn it all around, keep chasing his dream and his goal, and then to finally get there. And what a classic it was against Cordoba. Just incredible. And it was my first ever world title fight to be at, and I haven't been at too many big sporting events or major sporting events. Well, boxing mainly, but that was my first real big one. And I'll never forget it. It was a hair standing on the back of the neck moment.
Yeah, it was a Brian Peters special. Yeah. He obviously was Bernard's manager. He's Katie Taylor's manager at the moment. And I remember, I think it was that fight, they got somebody else to come in and pretend they were Bernard, and the spotlight picked him out, and the crowd goes mad. And then Bernard comes out to the Irish Rover from the other side of the stage, and Cordoba was like, what is this? Why am I in the ring for so long? But I mean, Cordoba was absolutely incredible in that fight as well, and Bernard had to climb off the canvas.
Yeah, he was. He was just he was some warrior. Like, there was times there where, Bernard Dunn had to really find something inside him. Like, he had to dig deep down to the depths of his soul, because there was times where he took like onslaughts from Cordoba. There was times where there was 10, 12 unanswered punches, 15 unanswered punches, saved by the bell at one stage. It could have been stopped. Bernard could have been stopped. The referee was that close to just really jumping in, but the bell went, that kind of stuff. And you need things to you need the rub of the green. You need things to go in your favor. And then I just feel it was his time. It was his time. And it was just amazing to be there to witness it.
Yeah, probably the greatest fight on Irish soil there's ever been. I think it goes 11 rounds, but as you say, like, Cordoba's dropped in the third, and then Dunn dropped twice in the fifth. So you think it's all over, but then ends up going 6 more rounds, which is incredible. Your last
6 knockdowns, 4 for Dunn and 2 for Cordoba in the fight. Like, just had everything.
Yeah, chaos. Brilliant chaos. Your last picks, Eric, we've paired a couple in together here. Ryan Burnett and Carl Frampton, 2 of your former sparring partners, Irish teammates as well, winning their respective world titles against Lee Haskins and Kiko Martinez.
Yeah. Just look, again, just because of the personal link with both of them, I didn't want to split them. I've been very, very close to both of them throughout my career, and sparred with them as well. But just 2 fascinating stories. I remember Carl Frampton, coming up, loads of potential, but never really never got there. He was not mainly, most of the time he was number 2 to David Oliver Joyce. And then things just changed for him. 2009. Yeah, things just changed for him. He beat Davey Oliver and he went on, and 2007. He. What's it? 2007. He won the European Union silver medal in in Dublin. They were held there. He had a cracking fight with the French guy in the final. The French guy was his surname is called Jakiev. He's an Algerian Frenchman, and he won Olympic silver in Beijing. And Frampton had an absolute humdinger fight with him, and it was Frampton's kind of coming of age fight. He didn't win it, but Barry McGuigan was there, and Barry McGuigan saw star quality, star potential, whatever. And then later on, it was no surprise to realise that Frampton and McGuigan's signed up a professional deal together. And Ryan Burnett then as well failed a brain scan. He was just an incredible athlete, an incredible amateur boxer, Olympic junior champion, and or youth Olympic champion, I think it was. I think he won a world junior medal as well, and world junior silver medal. And then he was turning professional, and he always had his mind, heart set on going professional. But he failed a brain test, brain scan, and then he thought, like, oh God, the whole thing is, it's not going to happen. And then he went through a really tough time as well. I think starting out, in terms of his story is brilliant. If you ever get talking to him, that he was living out of a car with his dad in England, driving around to the gyms, showering in different gyms, training in them, sparring different people, basically homeless, living out of a car. And then eventually he got his break, signed up with Matchroom and Eddie Hearn. And he went on to reach his destiny. Obviously, the brain scan got a second opinion and got passed. And then he went on and won his world title against Lee Haskins in the SSE Arena. Frampton won his world title against Martinez in front of 16,000 in the Titanic Quarters. And I was in the crowd for both of them, and it was just nice to be there because there were two former sparring partners and they went on their journey and they reached the pinnacle, and just an incredible backstory as well.
Eric, this has been a brilliant episode of You Had to Be There. Thanks so much for sharing those memories with us.
Pleasure. Take care.
It's so unexpected.
It's one of those you had to be there moments.
You had to be there.
It subsequently genuinely did change everything about my life.
You had to be there.
That was class. Yeah.
The FOMO is real when you weren't at the Bernard Dunn Cordoba fight and I wasn't there that night. I have serious FOMO because I know there's lads in the office who were at it, but it's just one of those sporting events in the Irish.
We did commentary on it.
Yeah, I know.
It was the whole build up was great. Like we've really missed big time professional boxing for obvious reasons in Ireland over the last while. And if Katie Taylor coming back, even if it is in the 3 Arena, although get your finger out, Eddie Hearn, sort it out. If it is, like, it'll bring that back and it'll show everybody else that you can do this and you can put fights on, and it'll give the Irish boxers hope that they can have big fights here, hopefully, now that all the rest of it is sorted out. So anyway, on tomorrow's show, it's the Friday before we play the opening game of the Six Nations. We have Ronan O'Gara, we have Alan Quinlan, and we've Lauren Jenkins, plus loads more coming on the show tomorrow. Adrian will be in alongside you.
Yourself.
Yeah,
indeed.
OTB AM brought to you live each morning by Gillette Labs for an effortless finish to your day. Hopefully the piece is broken out now that, you know, the little wrinkle in your relationship is broken, is sorted out.
Well, Kilmacud have appealed it, so
all
the way to the DRA.
I was thinking
something else.
Well, you had to be there. Not you had to be there around the world.
Jeez, we've fallen out over a couple of things, myself and Adrian. We'll be fine tomorrow.
All right, some Gavin Cooney goodness from last night's football show. Enjoy.
Here it's Vic McCarthy with you tonight, and joined by Gavin Cooney of the 42. Gav, how are you?
Good, Mick. Thanks very much.
Gav, this isn't the first time we've been on air together.
No, it's been a while.
The day, a long time ago now, we were two of 3 people on a GA podcast.
On the so-called Weaker podcast.
Which I swear to God, to this day, I think is the best achievement of whoever it was to come up with that.
Well, I leaned heavily on my Longford GA contacts for a week, and then they were like, "Okay, figure out the rest of the episodes yourselves, boys." It was great
trying
around,
to focus on the so-called weaker counties,
you know, and it was it was great around obviously the league, and then the GA brought in the Tailteann Cup, so maybe we were on to something.
Exactly, yeah, we were focusing where nobody else was at the time, and. Yeah, now everybody's all over that sort of stuff. But our halcyon days over at balls.ie. But we're here now, and we've lots of football to talk about. We're going to get to, didn't want to make it, we were talking about this earlier, you don't want to make it like it's like, transfer deadline. It's such an overplayed thing. We talked about it last night. But it was like the maddest transfer window of all time.
Yeah, no, it was
definitely January.
Chelsea, I mean, in the pie chart of madness, I think Chelsea had most of it, you know, and a little bit on Guardiola letting Cancelo leave. I was kind of amazed by that. Otherwise, there was just, I think some clubs were defined by how much sense has broken out. Manchester United, like, all of a sudden, look very, very well run. Like, it's amazing how quick our perceptions of these. How these clubs are run, how those perceptions change. Like Liverpool were a model of how to follow 6 months ago, and United were a shambles. Yeah. And all of a sudden, you know, United basically get the management appointment right. They clear Ronaldo out, and everything is all.
And everything's looking. They're playing well on the
rosy
pitch, so therefore everybody decides that Weghorst is a really smart signing. Whereas the exact same guy could have signed for them under Solskjaer or Rangnick, and it would have been, what are they doing? They're signing this donkey. He doesn't know what he's doing. It's like, I remain unconvinced about Weghorst, but you're so right about like it just being a total perception game, you know. But I still think more happened than normal, and we've just become almost professionally underwhelmed by it all.
Well,
so it's like I think it was busy and weird, and there was a lot of strange.
The Hakim Ziyech thing at PSG,
exactly,
I mean, he ended up doing a kind of a Saido Berahino. That's one for the deadline day ultras. But on a higher level, like he ended up in Paris trying to force this move through to PSG, and it didn't happen because, well, PSG say that Chelsea submitted the wrong paperwork.
Submitted paperwork that wasn't signed or didn't have any information on it,
That's
which is actually, if it's at that level of incompetence, that's it. It's like they couldn't sort out their fax machines.
But I mean, that I have to say would fit with the caricature I have of Todd Bowley.
Who's actually running Chelsea? Do you think Todd's actually doing it all himself? He's just stressed out. There's all these new signings coming into his office. Which one are you again?
Yeah, I feel like, and again, I could be totally wrong again, this perception. I don't think Todd Bowley doesn't strike me as a paperwork guy. He's more he's
more on the Trump side of things.
He's signing the checks and he's throwing the money.
He's art of the deal. Sorry, how much do you want for Fernandes? 120. Okay. I'm going to offer you 80. 120. The art of the deal. We'll wait till deadline day and then I'll give you 120. Matt Doherty is the most interesting from an Irish perspective, probably the most surprising as well. We talked about it a good bit with Dan last night. Since then, I suppose what we didn't know then was that it's not indeed a loan move, it's a 6-month permanent move, because speaking of incompetence at these insanely rich and well-sourced football clubs, Spurs didn't know the new rules, seemingly, that they weren't allowed to loan out more than 8 players at a time and just terminate this contract. With a year and a half to go, it wasn't like they were just some people sign for a 6-month loan in January when they're out of contract and they say goodbye to the club. I remember Conor Horan doing it at Villa. It's like, this is it now, I'm gone. Doherty has a year and a half this contract, and they're just go on.
It was quite jarring to see it last night. It was a very abrupt end to his Spurs career. And when you see, a contract cancelled by mutual consent, you think it's usually a poor reflection on the player. In this instance, I think it's definitely more of a case of poor reflection on the state of Spurs in capital letters. FIFA have new rules brought in this season where you can only have 8 players out on loan at any one time, 8 senior players. So say Troy Parrott is considered homegrown or home trained, so he doesn't count. But that 8 guys out on loan, and the 8th guy to go out on loan was Jed Spence, who's another right wing back who was signed by the club. He was disavowed the day he arrived by Conte.
And for over 20 million, wasn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. So they sent him out on loan to Rennes earlier in the afternoon, and then, hang on a minute, that means Doherty's the 9th man here. And eventually kind of cancelled his contract. I think 3 of those 8 players are fullbacks out on loan. One of them, Reguilon, is already at Atletico Madrid.
God, I forgot.
A bit of a mess. But Fabio Paratici, who's the Spurs sporting director, I feel he might have been a bit distracted the last couple of weeks. He's obviously been given a 15-month ban a 30-month ban from Italian football by the prosecutor as part of that investigation into alleged dodgy accounting at Juve, and he's waiting to see if that'll be upheld for global football and take him out of the Spurs job as well. But
meanwhile, Conte's gone for, I don't know, I seen today it could be up to 8 weeks. But
I didn't know.
But no, he had gallbladder surgery.
Yeah.
And so they didn't give a time frame. It could be, I would imagine a month, I would say, but apparently he's recovering from surgery. He won't be there for a while.
Okay, that's more serious, because I only ever see these things refracted through football. So I could tell you, if Antonio Conte twanged the hamstring, I could tell you how long he'd be out for. I remember Rafa Benitez once had kidney stones during an Arsenal game and had to watch it on TV. We just missed that one game. So I just saw it through that prism and thought, Conte might miss the weekend, but he'll be back.
Now again, there is no time frame. It could be that.
That's a nightmare.
No,
for
it could be that.
Yeah.
It could be just a couple of weeks, but they didn't give a time frame. And then obviously the analysis goes around to NHS recommendations on how long you should stay out of work. When you have your gallbladder removed, and it's 8 weeks, 8 to 10 weeks or something like that. So I think nobody thinks that he's probably going to stay away that long, but it looks like it will be a significant period of time, which is an unbelievable nightmare. So they've got a sporting director who doesn't know whether he's banned. You've got not knowing how many loans you have. You've shipped out all your fullbacks. It's like your team is in free fall anyway, more or less. And
the manager's unwell, and
they're playing Man City next week.
Oh my God!
Or this week.
Spurs! What a nightmare. So a lot is it Christian Stellini? Is that the assistant?
Yeah.
A lot is going to fall down on him, and I'm interested to see the tension between not being able able to work will drive Conte mad. So I'm sure he'll be mad to get back. But at the same time, it's Tottenham. Maybe he's never given a convincing impression that he wants to be there. So maybe I'm interested to see the tension between his natural inclination to get back to work and then his realisation that he would be going back to work at Tottenham.
And this could be something that's like he's on the way out anyway, and he's just
way out of Spurs.
Yes, it's way out of Spurs.
Seriously, golf flatters are, Mick.
Oh my God, that took a dark turn there. Apologies. What about Doherty then? It's definitely not a guarantee. Arthur was in the news round and was very down on the idea that this was going to work out. I think he's denying that now. He's denying that now. There's a romantic in me that thinks he's going to go off and set La Liga alight for this kind of glamorous club that might not be on Tottenham's level at the moment in world football, but certainly would be a bigger name. And we have the renaissance of Matt Doherty. It's definitely not straightforward that's going to happen, though.
No. Such an interesting move and such a cool move, and Doherty gets to work under Simeone, which will be an interesting. He's kind of doing a tour of the darker souls of football now. He's gone from Mourinho to Conte to Simeone. There's only Eddie Howe left of these, dark soul managers.
Where does Nuno fit into that? Twice.
Nuno's too. I don't think Nuno's a dark soul at all. I think he's quite placid, dull soul. Well, it's super interesting for Doherty, and it's a great experience in living and working in Madrid. He's going to find it hard, I think, to play many matches. That is the concern, isn't it? Because he's such an important player for Ireland. So Stephen Kenny will want him playing, if not regularly, at least playing more often than he might have played at Spurs. Yeah. And it's actually hard. That's no guarantee, I don't think, because Atletico are out of the Cup, they're out of Europe. They've finished bottom of a very straightforward Champions League group, so they're not even in the Europa League. So all that's left are 19 league games, and he's probably been signed as a backup right back because Felipe,
and they're fourth and probably don't have that much. They're going to be in a battle for the Champions League by the looks of things. Unless things significantly improve.
Yeah, well, I would be amazed if that was if their ambitions went any higher this season. They've been pretty poor throughout.
Yeah, but what I mean is it won't even be comfortable enough that he's going to be they're going to be taking chances on guys because they do as well. We haven't mentioned that they have Molina, who people will remember from the World Cup, who's he might not have been the greatest right back in the world, but he was a
very good,
significant player on that Argentina team.
And he also he's one of the rare instances in football at the moment of a guy who played in the World Cup final and has come back in good form. So many guys who played in the World Cup final are out of form. Like Mbappe tonight from PSG had a penalty. It was saved by the goalkeeper. Got a retake because the keeper was adjudged to have been half an inch off his line. Keeper then touched the next penalty onto the post. And Mbappe spooned the rebound over from 6 yards and then hurt his hamstring and had to go off after 20 minutes. So everyone is struggling after the World Cup final, bar probably...
Hurt his hamstring, you say? What date is it?
Is it going to be...
1st of February.
Is it going to be... We've got, 6.5, 7 weeks until Ireland-France?
That's too long for a hamstring. Damn it.
No, I think he should be fine for that game in Dublin. But Molina's come back in really good form. He's had 3 assists in his last 4 games or something. So he's really good. So it'd be hard for Doherty to force his way in on the right. Maybe at left back they've got the lad Ronaldo, who's not as convincing.
The lad. Yeah. I can't say I know too much about him, but yeah, maybe he did okay at left back, I thought, last year. That's the other thing with Doherty. We can be down, we can have these conversations. I thought Doherty was doing well, in the kind of post Mourinho Spurs. I thought he was unlucky not to get his place back at the start of this season because he was flying before Matty Cash took his leg out from under him.
Yeah, it was such
at the end of last season. Yeah, terrible tackle.
Steven Gerrard's Aston Villa. He was, because Spurs' best spell under Conte was Doherty's best spell at Spurs as well. So he was quite synonymous with
that goal he got against whoever was, where they stretched the whole field and he came in he was like a centre forward coming in through the middle of the end of a break. It was a great goal.
Might have been Everton. I think he definitely scored against Everton last season in a 4 or 5-0 win on a Monday night. So he's playing really well, and that I think that injury really hurt him. Hurt him obviously in a very literal sense, but it also took him out of the rest of the season. He missed 4 Ireland games in June, and it also stunted his pre-season, it stymied his pre-season. Those kind of brutal show trials that Antonio Conte submits his players to. And he was kind of, he's behind the 8 ball from there on in. Conte had that quite unfair comment publicly. It was just like Doherty played every game last season. I see him now, he's not in the right shape. I'm not stupid, I don't want to lose.
Yeah.
In fairness, Doherty started 3 of the next 4 games after that. So he has battled his way back. I don't think it's my green tinted glasses to say that I could never understand why he was picked behind Emerson Royale.
Emerson Royale,
I can't understand it. Emerson Royale's no good, and Doherty was better than him. But in fairness, with Pedro Porro arriving, he would have been scrapping with Royale for a place on the bench, and battled Royale, I suppose, and obviously decided to get his regular game time in and go to Atletico Madrid.
Hopefully, it is regular game time, and we'll see how it goes. And it's definitely it's like, do you know what? From even just an Irish fan's point of view, it's great to be going and checking the La Liga teams when they're named on a Saturday or Sunday as well, in the way that we do with Championship and League One. Let's face it,
Atletico Madrid. I mean, this is their no official title. It's not even Matt Doherty's Atletico Madrid. You'll read that a lot.
The way they announce them, by the way, would suggest that they don't see him as a nothing player anyway.
I don't know. I mean, they
do that with everyone these days.
Well, no, they did. They gave him a big unveiling today, didn't they? But I was just the official. And look, this is probably a clumsy Google Translate, but it went on the English section of Atletico Madrid website. They did translate it. They did describe him as corpulent, which is just, what did you mean to say? Which I assume is clumsy Google Translate on Atletico Madrid's part. But no, look, I can't wait to see how he goes. And look, I mean, the last Irish international to play in Spain, Steve Finnan and Espanyol, I feel the bar wasn't left too high there, so I think he'll.
There you go. That was my quiz question for the end of this segment, so you beat me to it. Yeah. Ian Hart at Levante.
For this section or for the crappy quiz?
Just
this section.
Well,
sorry.
actually, none of the lads are listening to this guy. I'll put that in the crappy quiz on Friday. Come here. You mentioned PSG playing tonight. They have actually taken the lead there. Nobody of interest scored. It wasn't Messi, and Mbappe's off. But there's another game on tonight, and we were just talking about this during the news, because the Coppa Italia is on and Roma are at home to Cremonese, and it was 1-0 during the news to Cremonese. It's now 2-0.
Yeah,
as you were saying, they haven't won a game all season.
Bizarre.
And this is like the Coppa Italia run from legend.
Yeah, it's bizarre. Very, very strange. Like, Cremonese bottom of Serie A without winning a game. I think there's 2 sides across the top 5 leagues who haven't won a game this season, and Cremonese are one of them. But they beat Napoli on penalties in the previous round. Napoli, who are runaway, who have effectively won the Serie A title already and look brilliant in Europe as well. And now they're 2-0 up away
from home in
Roma.
Stadio Olimpico.
And I'm just looking at the Roma team here. He's rotated quite a bit, but not entirely.
Well, that's
that
true,
team should still be good enough to win, to beat Cremonese. And then at half time, Mourinho brought on his superstars. Well, I say superstars, Dybala and Chris Smalling. But I'm amazed by that, yeah.
Yeah, well, first choice anyway. So there you go, yeah. So there's a story brewing in Italian football.
The fact that we're going to Cremonese might reinforce the point that it's 0-0 at Old Trafford and United are 3-0 up.
I probably should have mentioned that by now, yeah. I haven't even looked up at it, to be honest. It's
just
it's very much 0-0 at Old Trafford. As we wait to see whether Sancho comes on, I suppose that's probably the thing to watch for tonight, to see whether he makes his comeback. But Cancelo to Bayern, Gab, this is the thing you wanted to talk about. It's actually the thing I wanted to talk about, because we talked about Matt Doherty's thing coming out of nowhere. Like, João Cancelo, we kind of knew he was on the outs with Pep, and Pep made the comments, and we knew they were about Cancelo and kind of Foden. Maybe they're going to give Foden another chance anyway. But Cancelo is like, you might have been the best full-back in the Premier League last season, but no room for you here, bud. And we're not going to replace you. We're just going to let an 18-year-old take his chance.
I know, maybe Rico Lewis is, the next great fullback, but this is a risk, isn't it? Like he got rid of one left back, Zinchenko, and strengthened a rival in the Premier League to the point where they now might miss out in the Premier League to that rival. And now he strengthened a rival in the Champions League by giving them Cancelo. Yeah. Cancelo's starting for Bayern tonight and has taken 17 minutes to set up the opening goal in that game with a brilliant cross.
The only thing I'd say on that, though, and
quite amazed by it. Really.
I was like, if you're getting rid of João Cancelo, who are you sending him to that isn't going to be a rival in the Champions League or the Premier League? Like, there's no one. Like, I mean, he's one of the best players in the world. Like, he's not going to go to
Al Nassr. Give him 6 months.
Send him off on loan to
6 months at Al Nasser.
What's Man City's team in Melbourne?
Oh yeah,
or in New York.
I love comparing these great managers to Ferguson, because like Ferguson, in fairness, would have got rid of Cancelo, I'd say, if he was acting out in the dressing room.
Stam.
He wouldn't be sending him to Bayern Munich, I don't think. He would have sent him to. He wouldn't have gone much higher than Antwerp for the rest of this season, like, you know. But it's very interesting, like, because Cancelo, like, they're now light at left back. Like, they've got Rico Lewis as a teenager and Nathan Ake, who's centre back, really, who's playing really well, but is out of position at left back. Cancelo was not only like he's currently one of the best fullbacks in the world. He's also incredibly good for how Guardiola wants to play. He's so versatile in the sense he can play right back or left back. He can do that Pep thing where he tucks in and effectively plays as a midfielder. He can play as a traditional fullback and go out wide down either side.
Yeah.
You know, he could wallop one in from 30 yards. He's completely brilliant. But
OTB AM
with Gillette. Get into your flow with the new Gillette Labs Razor with exfoliating.